Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 11, Episode 55. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Glad you guys are back with us for this Friday show. Dave Bryan, how you doing?
Doing good. Happy Friday. Big busy day ahead of us, I have a feeling.
Yeah, a lot to talk about as we get ready for this Week 14 game against the Buffalo Bills on Sunday night at Buffalo. Later on in the show, we will have a Bills beat writer. That is Matt Parrino. He is a Bills beat reporter for Syracuse.com. So we'll talk to Matt a little bit later in the show to get the state of the union on the Buffalo Bills. Though, starting with the Pittsburgh Steelers, Dave, a lot to talk about today, starting with the most significant news that came across yesterday afternoon when the Steelers placed inside linebacker Vince Williams on the reserve COVID list. We do not know if that is a close contact or a positive test, but regardless of which bucket it falls into, it is highly unlikely he will be available for Sunday's game versus Buffalo. And so with Robert Spillane out, and of course Devin Bush done for the season, inside linebacker depth is essentially non-existent right now for the team. Starters is a question, let alone depth right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And people ask us, throughout the season, where do we see this team? Do we think this team can get to this point, or do we think this team can make a deep run in the playoffs, or what are they going to do in the next 4 weeks, kind of thing? And it's hard enough to kind of gauge a team during a regular season just because of how injuries can strike and all. And then you throw in all the COVID uncertainty, and man, you can go from one day to everything looking good to having 4 people on the COVID list, and that severely can alter your roster in a heartbeat there. So I know people get frustrated with us probably not looking too far ahead, but I think that's been a specialty of mine not doing that, especially this year. Now, obviously, it's concerning when you already have a guy like Robert Spillane, who I think, not only is he almost certain to miss the game this Sunday night, I'd be surprised if they have him back in the next couple of weeks anyway, because, Dr. Mel recently wrote, looks like possibly, an MCL injury, and looks like it could be multiple weeks on that. They obviously haven't put him on IR yet, but that doesn't mean that such a move might not be coming by this weekend. But we'll have to see. The good news is he isn't on it yet. It doesn't sound like it's a season-ending injury, just one that's going to take some time there. So you're already down that one linebacker. You're thinking, okay, well, Avery Williamson's been on the team several weeks now. Him and Vince Williams, can help cover the inside duties there. And then, lo and behold, we get the news on Vince Williams on Thursday that he's going to miss this game now on the COVID list. Where does that leave you? Well, that leaves you with Avery Williamson. It leaves you with Marcus Allen, who, I don't know what you want to term him. He's termed an inside linebacker, but as far as every down play, I think you'd be kind of hesitant to put him out there on the field for 60 plays at a time. And then you have a guy like, I don't know if we hit on it, Ulysses Gilbert III, back practicing again, obviously been on the IR. They opened up the 21-day window on him. Can they rush him along to get some snaps, some potential, at least break glass in case of emergency depth if needed there? Other than that, what do you have? You've got a severely depleted inside linebacking core at this point, a far stretch from what you envision this thing being at the start of the season, obviously with losing Devin Bush, midway through the season on top of it there. So a lot of questions right now when it comes to the inside linebacker depth chart and room. And people say, well, who's going to make the calls Sunday night against Buffalo? Who's going to wear the green dot now? I think it's easy to guess that it's probably going to be Avery Williamson because he did wear the green dot late in that game against Washington. I kind of find it hard to believe that they would switch outside of that right now at this point, especially the way Keith Butler kind of praised Williamson and his ability to grasp the defense kind of quickly on Thursday.
Sure, he asked the question of what do you have? I mean, those are the names. There's no magical door number 3 to choose. I mean, it's Marcus Allen, it's Avery Williamson, and maybe get back UG3, but that's obviously uncertain right now with that back injury he's coming off of. In terms of the calls, yeah, Williamson did wear the green dot after Spillane went out. I was surprised that Vince can Vince not get the green dot? Is he not allowed to have it? It's kind of
I'm not overly surprised. From our conversations earlier in the year, not that he can't handle it, not that he's not. It's just certain situations probably not necessarily want him on the field.
Well, what situations did Williamson play that Vince didn't? I mean, they played in the same situations, nickel and base.
Right. I'm just saying they wanted to get more going along the lines of having probably Williamson playing in more of those situations where just one linebackers on the field. I think the goal right from the get-go to get him in was for Williamson to, the whole Spillane thing is going to play itself out regardless. It's unfortunate the kid goes down the way that way that he went down, but it wasn't unthinkable that at some point during the final quarter of the season that Williamson may have overtaken Spillane,
Right.
And obviously he wore the green dot, in New York for a period of time as well too. So I'm not overly surprised that it went that way.
Yeah, I mean, and one of the things this team talked about when they traded for Williamson was that he already kind of knew the basics of the defense from his days in Tennessee, working with Ray Horton, former Steelers DB coach, of course, his time spent with Dick LeBeau. So he's probably processing it quicker than most guys in his situation. He's a veteran guy that's played a lot of ball as well. Although,
and look, even when Vince Williams has been on the field, if he's not wearing a green dot, we've seen him communicate plenty.
Yeah, he's a great co-pilot.
Sure. Without having the green dot. I mean, all it takes is probably just getting a quick call from whoever is having a green dot, and it's just as good as having him wear the green dot because we've seen him clapping their hands, getting people lined up in the right position. So. I think oftentimes it's a fun subject to talk about, green dot and all like that. But look, the biggest thing is that it gets that the play comes in, it gets understood quickly, and it gets disseminated across the defense as quickly as possible. So Mika in the back end can relay it. It's just the old understanding and then processing and then the communication. And let's face it, one of the things about Devin Bush early in the season was he had to do a better job of communicating it, and I don't think that's a problem. Look, even if Avery Williamson communicates the wrong thing, as long as everybody's on the same wrong page together,
right?
That you can maybe live with that, So here's the thing, though: they didn't necessarily do that in the second half of that game.
Yeah, the communication they looked a mess. It was chaos pre-snap, whether that was the Logan Thomas touchdown or just some of the general pre-snap stuff. You couple the loss of Spillane and Joe Hayden, you saw a lot more chaos defensively in the second half.
So is this big? Absolutely, it's big. Now, the flip side to the argument about flipping out about not having Vince Williams here, at least what I've seen in my tape study of the Bills, and obviously we're going to get a lot more into that later on in this show. They use a lot of 11 personnel or personnel with 3 or more wide receivers. Okay, so that tends to have you believe that they're going to stay within their identity and all like that. There's probably no reason not to, and then thus that's going to put the Steelers in a lot of sub-package defense on Sunday night, which in turn should mean just one inside linebacker on the field. That kind of plays in the Steelers' favor there. Now, if Buffalo wants to go off script and say, let's see if we can get another inside linebacker there's on the field by running more heavy personnel or whatnot, have at it, man. I bet the Steelers would sign up for that right now. As far as that's concerned, and take their chances against, 2 tight ends or a fullback and a running back along those lines there. But if you were to pick maybe going into a circumstance where you could probably bet on the opposition running a lot of three or more wide receivers and you being in nickel more, it's probably the Bills. So
right. But see, I don't know if I agree with that because even in nickel, both your inside linebackers, you still have 2 inside linebackers on the field.
Right, but you can manipulate that some. with a safety more, which basically Marcus Allen is, in that situation. So that's why I'm saying it's not having a heavier package out there. I don't view as big of a concern.
Yeah. I don't know. You still have two inside linebackers, whether you're in base or in nickel. I mean, obviously, if you're in dime, then that kind of helps solve it. So if you can put yourself in more third and longs and get just one guy, Marcus Allen, on the field, then it kind of helps. But I still think it's going to be an issue because either way, you need two inside linebackers on the field. Williamson's one, and I assume
I think they ought to really consider playing some breaking out the big nickel.
Yeah, I think that's a correct point. I think you got to start looking at some creative solutions. What those are, I'm not quite sure, but yeah, I think trying to play it straight up like your normal personnel would probably present a problem.
And look, when you are in nickel, you're going to have Mike Hilton. Mike, call whatever you want to term Mike Hilton is.
I like your slot backer term.
Yeah, slot backer, whatever. That's a guy that can help you out against a run.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, like I said, I'm less concerned about the Steelers potentially being in more nickel this time because of the kind of personnel that matches up, because you don't have that one extra heavy body for the Bills offensively on the other side.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. But we'll see if Buffalo goes
you know what I'd do? I'd throw Jordan Dangerfield out there. some on in some situations there, because and once again, we'll get into this later on in the show. Josh Allen is not afraid to run and run the football, and they'll have some design quarterback runs with him as well too. I want somebody out there that I'm fairly sure can hit and tackle and get a big guy like Josh Allen down on the field. Now, do I expect them to put Dangerfield out on the field? No. It sounds like Marcus Allen's going to log a lot of snaps potentially in this game. And, if that's true, if there's one guy that you fear could be manipulated the most, it's potentially him.
Right. Yeah, I wonder if there will be a creative solution, and maybe they play more of a dime defense with Williamson as the lone inside linebacker, and because Cam Sutton's probably going to have to play outside corner because Joe Hayden's probably not going to play in this game. So yeah, I'm worried about their lack of answers because they're going to be a bit hamstrung by the available personnel to them. And are they going to be as flexible as they like to be with some of the different sub packages they play? And I think the loss of Williams, obviously, and the presumed loss of Joe Hayden, still in concussion protocol, hasn't practiced this week, is going to put this team in a bind and trying to come up with defensive answers.
Well, we'll see about the big nickel. It would be,
how would you define that for this game? What is your envision of a big nickel? A third safety coming in?
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be. Would you still have Hilton on the field though?
Oh yeah,
give me the personnel grouping on that.
Oh, I mean,
would it be one inside linebacker plus?
I would have one inside linebacker and then the rest of defensive backs in there.
Okay. Yeah, something like that. All right, fair enough. Yeah, we'll see. I think the team's got to get creative, and again, the injuries.
Look, they're not afraid to run out of their 11 personnel, right? Now here's the thing with Buffalo is they don't run as much as you think. Outside of quarterback runs. In fact, their running backs combined have less carries than the Steelers running backs do combined. Now, does that mean that this game specifically they might not consider running more? Potentially, but who they are is more of a down the field vertical passing team. And they'll take that running back of theirs and they'll move them around. They'll go in. They'll give the appearance of a 10 person of a 0-1 personnel grouping sometimes too, because of the way they'll use the running back to flex him out and then basically go empty backfield. We see a lot of empty backfield on Buffalo on tape. At least I have there. I want Mike Hilton on the field. If I can get Cam Sutton, we'll see what happens with Joe Hayden with concussion protocol. And I just wrote about Cam Sutton this morning. One way or the other, Cam Sutton I think is going to play a lot of snaps in this game, either as a outside starter in place of Cam Hayward. Joe Hayden, or he's going to play in some of the sub package stuff. I think we're going to be talking about a lot of multiple defensive back sub package personnel groupings in this game.
Yeah, I think we'll see some stuff that we haven't seen as much.
Which goes back into me talking about, not being as afraid of being down the line, Vince Williams.
I'm just worried that that in Buffalo, big old tight end Lee Smith's licking his chops, saying, "Let me at him. Let's play heavy. Let's try to run this ball." But you're right. Buffalo has definitely transformed its offense into more. They lean on the pass game much more than they have in the past, and much more than they do the run game right now. So in that sense, it's a little bit better. But I just worry about the pre-snap stuff, the communication. Obviously, going into the week, now that you go into the game knowing that Vince probably won't be available to you, I think it kind of makes it easier than mid-game where Williamson's trying to come in and make calls. But worry about that chaos, because certainly once Spillane and Hayden went out, the defense felt a little bit more uncertain and confused.
Well, heck, yeah, if they want to put Knox and Lee Smith on the field together and try to run, have at it.
Yeah.
To me, I'd much rather take my chances that way, because look, this is a good vertical passing team. This is a quarterback in Josh Allen that's good at extending the play, and on top of it, if you don't get him down to that first chance and he gets outside the pocket, he can long arm you down the field. So if they want to come out and try to their game plan be run the football 28 times in a game, I think that plays into Steelers' hands, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, I just wonder situationally if they may just do some stuff that way. But let's talk about the Steelers' rest of their injury report, non-COVID related stuff. Some good news on that front. At least Steven Nelson's been full the last 2 days with his knee injury. Chris Boswell returned to practice on Thursday with that hip that caused him to miss the Washington game, so that was good to see. Chris Wormley was also a full participant after not practicing on Wednesday. Ben was full as well. Of course, we expect him to play Sunday night. And so that's some positive news. Guys who did not practice were Joe Hayden with that concussion, still in protocol. Robert Spillane, as we mentioned, very unlikely to play against Buffalo on Sunday. And Chase Claypool was a DNP with an illness. Of course, in 2020, anytime an illness pops up, it is worth mentioning.
Yeah, I don't think we have anything yet on once again, you see that illness pop up. Used to think nothing really about it prior to this year, but now obviously with the COVID world that we live in, you just wonder, is that the next guy that's going to end up on the list? You certainly hope it's not going to be the case with that, for obvious reasons there. Boswell being, Mike Tomlin said earlier in the week that hopeful to get Boswell back. Here's to hoping he doesn't have any setbacks on Friday. What else? Spillane obviously going to miss. Joe Hayden, boy, if you want to talk about repercussions of having a shorter week, this is it, right? If this had been a Sunday game, maybe you feel a little bit more comfortable about Joe Hayden making it through protocol. But he was pretty damn woozy, I think, coming off that field the other night. And with this being a short week, yeah, keep your fingers crossed, because now you want to talk about having a little bit of angst. You don't have him, and then Cam Sutton has to play outside, and then you don't have that extra. You can't maybe be as comfortable as maybe a lot of dime, because quite honestly, I wouldn't mind taking my chances as much playing a lot more dime, even in maybe some potential run situations if I have guys like Mike Hilton and Cam Sutton inside. But it changes the dynamic a little bit. Obviously you can put Justin Lane on the outside and kind of get back to that anyway. But do you want how much do you trust Justin Lane on the outside right now?
Mm-hmm. Especially at left cornerback, which is where he would play, and he hasn't played as much left corner as he has right corner. Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier was, you could maybe do something where Williamson is the lone inside linebacker on the field, and you bring in Hilton and Sutton just to put your best guys on the field. But if Hayden can't play, then you're putting Justin Lane on the field. There's still a domino effect there to deal with. So that's what I'm talking about. Maybe they will have the concern there is the lack of flexibility that they would otherwise have if the other guys were healthier and available to you. So that's the worry there.
Maybe the X factor in this game might be Joe Hayden.
Yeah, he's had a couple of rough weeks. He got in that car accident. He had that knee injury. He's got a concussion. I mean, he has had an eventful couple of weeks. Not in a good way.
Right. Now, what other fallout is there from the injury report?
The only thing I would note on The only thing I note on Claypool is that obviously illness, and you see Vince going COVID. We'll just have to see. But Chris Wormley did not practice on Wednesday with an illness, and then was full yesterday. So hopefully Claypool's in the same boat. I'm not going to be sounding the alarms just yet, but of course we'll monitor Claypool's status and see what the Friday report has to say. I think for Hayden, I think he has to probably be at least limited today if he is another DNP for Friday. I mean, we'll get designations today, but not expecting Hayden to go.
We'll see, stranger. I mean, they will err on the side of caution, though. So, as you said, if he's not able to at least go limited today, I mean, there's still time. But I would definitely, if he's not limited today and does not practice, I don't see how you list him anything other than doubtful.
Right? Because the protocol means you got to get in some exercise beforehand to see how you respond from that. Usually wait a day after to make sure you still feel okay. So if he can't practice today, there's just really not enough time, I don't think, to get him ready for Sunday night. All right, Dave. Keith Butler, Randy Fichtner speaking to the media.
You missed some maneuver. We've got to finish out the Marsh edition. I don't think we talked a lot about that.
No, we didn't. And you've watched. That came in really late on Wednesday's podcast. The signing of Cassius Marsh and James Conner being activated off the COVID list. And you've watched Marsh more than I have, so feel free to give me your thoughts on him and if you think it's a good signing or what his role is going to be for the Steelers.
Yeah, look, I mean, you got to hand it to the Steelers to go out and get a guy with experience, a guy that I think can give you more than just depth at the outside linebacker position. He's got some special teams experience. He's been able to stick in the league for what's going on 7 seasons now. I think that speaks a lot about him. When you put on a tape, the sack reel specifically, you find a guy that wins a lot with effort, a guy that wins kind of more athletically. He'll either run around you on the outside or he'll swim to the inside. He'll get you to overset on the outside, the tackle to overset. He'll arm over that way. Or one thing that really sticks out just on his sack reel alone is his ability to twist and his timing inside. He's got good enough athleticism that he has a nice kind of delay. Be able to loop around and twist inside. So you see his sacks be a combination of all those things: running around a tackle on the outside, a swim maybe to the inside on an overset, maybe a twist inside, or one of those effort sacks where the pocket kind of breaks down. He's continually to fight, whether it be at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage, and he gets to the quarterback that way. Another thing that sticks out is he has 7 or 9 forced fumbles. I think about 7 of those have come on sacks. So he's got one of those knacks to be able to, if he gets to the quarterback, to get the football loose from the quarterback, and that obviously is a huge plus for him. You don't see him win with his hands a lot, though. You don't. At least I didn't. In the limited amount of tape, you don't see a lot of the hand fighting, the hand usage, the speed to power kind of stuff. He's not T.J. Watt that way, for sure. He's not going to. I don't think you're going to see him rip and get up underneath guys and all like that. I think he's more situational, a kind of guy that you get in there 20 snaps a game along those lines. Not overly effective as a whole, I don't think, against the run. Definitely not a Bud Dupree when it comes to set the edge against the run. Does have a few run stops to his credit. Once again, a lot of effort when it comes to him. A guy that can play on special teams and run up and down the field. I'm sure you'll see him there as soon as he gets in the fold there. Obviously has the athleticism to drop some in coverage. Can line up with his hand in the dirt, can line up standing up, can play on either side of the defense. But on the deeper you get into his film, I think you can see why he's kind of guy that's been on multiple teams at this point and why he's not a starter there. He's a good depth guy. I would expect him to be 3rd or 4th on the depth chart. probably fourth initially behind Ola, and then basically an upgrade over Jaron Elliott, and that's where he is.
Once he gets up to speed, and that's not going to happen for probably another week or two, do you think he jumps Adeney as the number 3 behind Highsmith and Watt, or do you think he really is in that Jay Elliott number 4, maybe see 1 or 2 snaps on defense a game, and primarily a special teams kind of guy? I know it's hard to judge.
Yeah, it's hard because he's not even going to be in the building this week.
Right? Yeah, 2 weeks from now, once he gets up to speed.
I don't think it's unthinkable that he could jump Ola.
I agree.
But whether or not, I don't think that's going to happen in the next couple weeks. I think he's a guy. He's a far more athletic guy than Ola is. Ola obviously probably a little bit more physical player, pass rusher. But I think Marsh is a smart kid. Once again, he's not going to beat you the way Bud was winning and the way Watt wins. That's not how he wins. But if you get him in the game in situational things where maybe you can work with some of that athleticism or work with that twisting ability of his and all, that's where he's effective.
Okay. How did you say he wins the most aside from twists? Is there any individual way that is it just with speed, or because you said it wasn't his hand use as much?
Yeah, I just think it's all. I don't think there's one area other than that where you say, oh, okay, well he wins that because there's a couple of them running around the edge. There's a couple of swims inside, and there's a couple of him twisting inside, and then a couple other sacks where it's cleanup sacks where it's after 4 second sacks. So. The biggest thing that sticks out with his sack reel is him not winning with like a cross chop or a rip or speed to power along those lines. You don't see that.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think the value in the signing is just a veteran guy who's got a lot of Sunday experience and has played relatively well. A 7-year veteran, has played in different systems, and and as you said, the production is not terrible. 9 forced fumbles in his career is certainly nothing to sneeze at. So when you have a pretty young group overall outside of T.J. Watt with Highsmith, a rookie, and Adeney, who has not played a ton of football in his career, and Jay Elliott, who's not played a lot of defensive snaps as of late, just to have a guy that's been there, done that, was probably going to be good value for your team.
He's more Leo than he is anything,
Like he was drafted by Seattle, right? So he kind of in that Leo elephant type role, usurp type stuff. Yeah, I gotcha. But you're fine with the signing overall, I take it?
I mean, what are you going to get?
I mean, it's obviously low risk.
Right. I mean, what are you going to get for the risk involved here? And at least here's the thing: the guy's been in enough systems now. He played with. I think he's had a cup of coffee with the Patriots, the Cardinals, who else has he been with? The Colts. Jacksonville, Seattle. So he's experienced. The fact that he's hung around this long is one of the minor pluses because it lets you know that there's some element to him to be able to be a kind of a guy you just pick up and plug in real quick, on a moment's notice. So I think that element to him and the fact that he is still at his age has the athleticism to go up and down the field and make a couple of times. Hey, I think his forced fumble this year came on special teams against the Packers.
Okay.
So there is that, and you're not going to play him 22 special team snaps, but I think he's a guy to play 11 or 12 of them for you. As far as that goes there. So, based on what's out there that you can get in the building quick, that's got some experience. I mean, it's hard to poo-poo kind of those kind of additions.
And the Steelers currently have a roster exemption for him. Give me a quick state of the roster. What are we sitting at right now in terms of the numbers? And I know it's been a little chaotic.
Yeah, I think they're at, 52? Where were we?
Yeah. Was it 52 or 54?
Marsh doesn't count yet.
Yeah, okay.
Connor is not counting. He should count today.
Okay, so that will put it at 53.
And then Vince went off the roster.
Okay, so they're back at 52.
All right, so I think they might be at 52 officially, and then I think Connor going on today might put it back at 53.
Well, they were at 52, but then now they should be at 52 because 52 before with the Connor and Marsh exemptions. Vince comes off, puts you at 51. Connor comes back, puts you at 52. Correct?
Okay, all right, 52 then.
And then
we'll see what happens with Pouncey today.
Pouncey, I would assume Pouncey's going to be off COVID before Sunday's game, hopefully at least. So that puts you at 53. There's your 53.
All right, look, you had 53, and you had Wright and Coyle revert.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you were at 55, and then you had Wright.
But they're 54.
Right, 54, right.
Okay, so we're doing.
You had 6 inactives that made your game day roster at 54. Then you lost 2 to reversions. That took you to 52.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had Vince off. That's 51.
Connor comes back, puts you at 52.
If you when Connor's exemption ends today, that'll put you at 52. And then
then Pouncey will come back.
Then hopefully Pouncey come back and make it 53.
And then once Marsh gets his exemption ends, probably probably next Monday, then they'll have to make a move from there.
Right. I would think that based on the way the wire has gone with outside additions, that the exemption for Marsh would last through Sunday.
Okay. If 2 trains are leaving Chicago, New York,
man, you get with this whole what gets you is these reversions,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then obviously they could still do elevations, and they could do a COVID replacement for Vince, and so obviously this is still a fluid situation with the roster leading up to Sunday's game against Buffalo.
And here's the good thing is that they play out of town this week, and we're back to a regular Sunday game and all like that. So we will have all of our answers, I'm pretty sure, by Saturday at 4:00.
Oh, yeah, finally get the schedule at least some level of normalcy, and that'll be nice to have. All right, any other minutia other than we just wallowed through? Anything else I'm missing?
I think we got it all there.
All right. Keith Butler, Randy Fietner, as they always do, speaking to the media yesterday. Keith Butler asked how did he think Alex Highsmith did in his first NFL start. He said, quote, "I thought he was good. I've never worried about Alex because, like I said last week, you tell him one time and he's got it. I think we had a discussion on Wednesday that the All-22 looked better than the TV tape. And again, recognizing this is a massive downgrade from Bud Dupree, but overall, Highsmith had a vacuum. Thought a fine first start.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. The deeper I got into the All-22 there, outside of really impactful plays, sacks, strips, along those lines. But I don't think just the 5 tackle number, the 2 solos and the 3 assisted tackles do him justice. I think there's a lot more on tape there. Look, this is a big, final quarter of the season for him now. You would expect to see him make some noticeable leaps in this final quarter of the season as he gets a little bit more comfortable in that defense. Obviously, I don't think they should play him 70 snaps a game. I think that's part of the reason why you see maybe a guy like Marsh be brought in. Ola going to play a handful of that, but I think they need to I think they need to rotate him out a little bit more if they potentially can. There was a time or two where I kind of wondered if he was breathing a little bit heavy, which isn't out of the ordinary for a first-year player, right? Later on in the season, the age-old hitting the rookie wall kind of thing.
But when was the last time he played that many snaps in the game?
Yeah,
his Charlotte days,
right? But overall, I thought he looked good. I mean, I think you highlighted some stuff, and I did too. Some arm over stuff. We saw him varying up a couple of the pass rush moves there. That's always good to see with a young edge rusher encounter. Like the one specific play on one of the run stops there, him little tiny push pull there on the tackle, and I think we covered a lot of that on the podcast the other day there. So just want to see him continue to progress.
Yeah, I want to see him get stronger. I want to see him stay on his feet. There were certainly some times where he was put on the ground. There was one spin that he tried, that inside spin that he ended up on Heinz Field after trying it. I think what I like about him is that he's got a lot of plans. He's got a lot of pass rush moves, and he'll throw a lot at you. But I think for the offseason, it's harder to do midseason. But for the offseason, in addition to getting stronger, I want him to really hone in on 1 or 2 moves to really try to perfect. Sometimes if you try to do everything, you kind of do nothing. And so really find 1 or 2 go-to moves, 1 move and a counter off of it, and still have those other tools in your tool belt, of course, but really become, we're going to focus on whether that's going to be a long arm or a cross chop or whatever the case is. Find 2 rushes, try to perfect those, and that's probably your best path to becoming a more effective pass rusher.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, it's way early. I don't think you can, and even go back to his college days. I don't think you can hone in and say, well, this was his one. This was his signature move. I don't think he has a signature move.
Right. He does a lot. He's got a lot of tools in his belt.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got to try to find, because that's what James Harrison had 2 moves. He had your dip rip and your speed bowl, and that's all he needed. He just had the one in the counters. White Freeney with speed and inside spin. So again, it's nice to have all those things and that variety, and that shows a good football IQ. And he's doing some pretty impressive stuff on tape in that regard. But I think you want to find something you're really good at that you can hang your hat on in a got to have it moment, and that'll all come with time. I mean, it's not a concern, just something you'd probably tell any rookie.
And and with all of them, they just got to get stronger. I mean, you see him doing that hand usage during the off season, this past off season, all that. That's all fine, and he needs to continue that. But I think just the overall strength, filling out a little bit more will help him.
Yeah, Keith Butler also asked about having, Avery Williamson, kind of the confidence in him, and he said, quote, "We're going to see. Hopefully we'll be in good shape. Marcus Allen, we brought him in. If you notice, we bring him in on third down quite a bit to do a lot of coverage stuff for us." And quote, one important note on Williamson, he has played Buffalo this year with the Jets, and so hopefully he will be more familiar with that offense. And so that's one minor point in his favor in terms of trying to diagnose and digest things, as the presumed signal caller is that he has played this offense before, and so that'll be beneficial to him.
Yeah, absolutely. Be able to pass a little bit. There is some value within that for sure.
Yeah, just given the circumstances of all the newness, at least the opponent won't be as new to him as it will be to the rest of the Steelers, who have not, of course, played Buffalo this season. Anything else Keith Butler said that you want to touch on?
No, and I wrote about this morning, extolling kind of the virtues of one Cameron Sutton, and just kind of all the stuff that we've already known about Cam Sutton, going back to when he was drafted. The ability to know where everybody on the field should be, and position flexibility, and that kind of stuff. Boy, he's played all. By the time this game gets over on Sunday night, I think will have played over 400 defensive snaps. So definitely a guy that look. I mean, he hadn't been perfect, but I think he's forced three forced fumbles and 20 something, closing in on 30 total tackles, and that's not bad at all based on not even 400 snaps so far there. Absolutely. So he's going to get, once again, I'm hopeful that obviously that Joe Hayden can play on Sunday, because I really think the right way to approach this Bills defense is to play a lot more with Mike Hilton and Cameron Sutton on the field.
Yeah, and I think just overall, you just put your best guys on the field, and when you're hurting defensively and you got injuries, you just want to put your best players out there. And so, yeah, I agree. If you can have Hayden available and that gives you more flexibility, then you got to take advantage of that. And just from our charting, and you could probably break this down and stratify it even more if you wanted to, but these are the positions we have Sutton charted for in the 400 snaps that he's played this season. As a dimebacker, a free safety, left corner, nickel, right corner, and strong safety. Like, he's just played everywhere. And again, you could probably break that down more if you really wanted to do a deep dive on a tape breakdown. So, I mean, he has been a big chess piece and a big problem solver for this defense, him and Mike Hilton. What
we've seen, the problem with this defense this season, obviously the miscommunications, and we saw, unfortunately, some of that in the second half against Washington result in big plays. And then the missed tackles, when they're missing them, boy, they're missing them. And they're going for double explosives, And I had that stat the other day about third down and plays of 30 yards or more. That's the kind of stuff that severely, unfortunately, counteracts what you're doing with the adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat, where you're having those sacks and the turnovers. If you're giving up the 30 and the 40s on the back end, that's where it's hurting the most. And it just seems like it's been one or two plays a game that puts the opposition on the short field or in the end zone on them. And we saw Marquise Brown and that touchdown. I mean, that game was really in hand. And then 170-something yard play to the house, and all of a sudden we got to clench our fist a little bit for the final 5 or whatever minutes of the game there was. So you got to cut out those obviously kind of things. And what's even worse, and we highlighted this earlier in the season, and this is just not that they're converting 3rd and 10s. It's the 3rd and the 13s and the 3rd and the 17s. So that's been the thing that's been that they got to get sorted out. And look, it starts with communication, and in so many words, Keith Butler said that one to the tight end was a busted coverage. Something that we knew.
Yeah. I mean, it's not even just the fact that it's 3rd and 10 versus 3rd and 13. It's that they're giving up 30 on 3rd and 10.
They're flipping the field severely.
Right. I mean, it was a 39-yarder by RG3, the 30-yarder to Cam Sims. That stuff's going to kill you. And Buffalo's got weapons, and they're certainly capable of doing the same. So, mental issues, missed tackles, just Steelers beating Steelers. That's kind of been the theme of these last 2 games. A narrow win against Baltimore, and of course the loss to Washington on Monday. Randy Fichtner's also talking with the media, and he answered one of your questions that you had, Dave, was why are we seeing less pre-snap motion and jet sweeps and stuff like that. Here is an excerpt of Fichtner's quote. He says, quote, "I definitely believe a factor of shorter weeks, less practice time. I definitely believe that it can help us moving forward. I know that there's a balance between that and the attempted things we are trying to do in our no huddle or muddle huddle type situation." So he's saying the increase in tempo and no huddle combined with the lack of practice time is the reason why we're seeing less of the motion. Do you buy that? Do you think it's a fair evaluation? And obviously, you hope to see it return, I assume.
Well, how long do they have waiting to play Baltimore?
That's a good point. A lot of time.
All right. So, I mean, I can maybe understand it a little bit between Baltimore and Washington, but and look, I understand they want to try to give those guys off, and we don't know what level of walkthrough versus practice that they had, but. Or maybe they just thought they didn't need to show it against Baltimore. I don't know. But, I mean, all that's water underneath the bridge now at this point. I know we were asking the questions why. And look, I mean, you get to Wednesday right now, and Ben's not working right now, and he didn't work a lot or hardly any on the short week against Washington there. I understand maybe wanting to save his arm and not throw him, but get him out there doing some handoffs on some of this, getting the timing of this motion down. I think the biggest thing with motion a lot of times is the timing of it, right? We saw Ebron have a kind of be off timing on a run play here in the red zone.
The 4th and goal play. Yeah.
Right, the 4th and goal play. I understand what Randy's getting at. It just doesn't add up with the short week kind of thing,
Yeah, no, that's fair. For sure. But Fichtner seemed open to obviously hoping that it returns. So so hopefully we'll be a welcome sight to see more of that. But again, I do wonder if it's just them trying to get back to basics and just trying to rebuild, especially this run game from the ground floor. Clearly not being successful in that regard, but I wonder if that's just the mentality too. Let's just try to get back to basics.
Looks like Avery Williams is being asked, has to wear the green dot. It won't be unfamiliar territory. On Monday, he said he's worn the green dot for most of his career. So it sounds like that obviously is the way it's trending. Yeah,
I mean, I'm pretty 99% confident, positive that Avery Williamson is going to be the guy wearing the green dot because there just aren't a lot of other options right now, but also what you just referenced.
Where were we? Talking about the offense.
Mm-hmm.
When you, it's not just the motion. Look, you see teams like the Rams last night, and a few other teams around the league that use the motion a lot more. If you're going to consistently run out of that, then you have to have a lot of misdirection going on with that. I think one of the things, and the Chiefs obviously do this better than any other team in the league right now, is in addition to their pre-snap motion, they're running misdirection off of it. So you've got players going in two different directions. You got players going in two different directions, and they're able to get the defense flowing one way and then go back the other way with it. Now if you're running, if you're running your pre-snap motion and your play runs tend to be to one side, then that could be a bit of a tell there on top of it there. So, but if you're not having a lot of time to practice to build off of your motions in misdirection, well, then that's a problem in itself there. And also they don't have obviously the kind of speed. If you don't have a guy like McFarland or Ray McDonald McLeod on the field, where is your speed to help utilize that jet sweep portion of it to keep defenses honest?
Well, you have Claypool, you have Deontay. I think there's enough talent.
Deontay's fast, but Claypool not necessarily so.
Well, I think he's been effective on some of that jet stuff, and the dude ran, 4.4? He's just a physical freak that you better not let get into space or he's going to make you pay, I think.
Well, with Claypool, okay, more so when you're down low in the red zone. I wouldn't expect Claypool to double explosive, to explosive play you on one of those jet sweeps.
Yeah, he's just a physical freak. I think it can work with a lot of body types. Obviously, he works most often and probably most effectively with the smaller McFarland type of guy. But my point is there's enough weapons on this offense for them to make it work. Obviously, they're capable of doing it.
Well, goes back to what I've said the last couple of weeks here with the offense, though, is, they're using that pre-snap motion early, maybe the first drive. Heck, I think we've counted up sometimes 5 plays,
it's in their script, and then they just abandon it.
Right, and then they get it. Then you get later on in the game, and you're not seeing it at all,
Yeah. I wonder what we have the numbers on that, right? I'd just be curious to see the motion percentage from early in the year to now. Obviously, it's not something we can do right this moment, but
it's gone down.
Yeah, it's gone down. I'm just curious to put the actual data on it because you're right, it has decreased, no doubt about it.
It's okay, and once again, the thing that I've been calling for off of this the whole time is, man, how about throwing out off of it? And some 2-man route combinations off of it.
Yeah, or even just hit Claypool in the flat. Like I get as a runner, maybe it's not the most effective thing, but if you, play action and hit Claypool in the flat, and now he's a one-on-one with the corner, like I'm going to take that matchup all day with Claypool. I think I'm getting at least 4 or 5 yards because dude's going to fall forward, or he's going to break the tackle and get a big explosive play. So it doesn't have to be even just vertical throwing. It can just be something quick in the flat to try to out-leverage somebody or at least make them respected.
And then the other thing, I think a lot of people still asking about Derek Watt and usage and all like that, and I don't like some of the answers that we got this past week. Well, you can line him up at tight end, and his tape hasn't been great this year.
He's one and done. I'd say he's a one. And done.
I think it's possible, but on the flip side, his what he's going to cost you versus roster displacement next year. Do you really save?
Yeah, it's not a big savings, but they cut Jordan Berry and McCullers to save cap, and it wasn't a big savings, but it was.
Right, but at least he can play some special teams for you and add that dimension to you,
Yeah, and he has been good there. He has not been poor there, but is the juice worth a squeeze? Can you get someone else at a comparable level? You probably could.
And the thing is, when you have him on the field, who's off the field,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, they've been going heavy, obviously, and just have not been able to run out of those goal line situations. Fiedner even said that he probably should have ran it 4 times on the goal line, which I don't know if that was the right answer. He didn't get it 3 times. I don't know if they were going to get it a 4th. Maybe try to have a different approach with your quarterback and all the weapons he has to throw to.
Yeah, and you see Goff do the quarterback sneak early in that game against the Patriots. Now, obviously, I don't think you want Ben Roethlisberger leaping up over the line like that. In that fashion, but I think there are still some instances where Ben should and maybe could call his own number a few times. He does it so infrequently that I know defenses don't expect it. So, and he's a big enough guy where you would think he'd be able to do that. So,
yeah, one guy who's going to run a lot of quarterback sneaks, Josh Allen. He is one of the kings of quarterback sneaks.
Absolutely. Look, you got to get this running game going to some degree, and you got to get it going early in the game. Once again, I don't think you have to run 35 times in a game, but the better that you can, the more successful you can run early. Whether it be shortening up power, some of your power pulls or something like your trap game or something like that. You got to do it. Obviously, we don't think they're going to shuffle the line or anything like that. So you're going to have to learn how to run better out of what you're doing now, and it's easier said than done. You're going to have a level of physicality. If it'll be interesting to see if they get Pouncey back, how that plays into it. And obviously, James Conner back should look. You get a 70-yard game out of James Conner running the football, maybe 100, close to 100 total out of maybe a combination of McFarland, James Conner, and Snell, and you get back to that close to 50% run success, even if it is a total of 80 rushing yards in period. That's a world of difference, man. I mean, that's running 200 yards for this offense.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do a cartwheel if they convert a 3rd and short. Like, my bar is low. I am just desperate for any positivity with the run game right now.
And they used to be so good at that,
Even the first month of the season, they ran fine. I mean, it wasn't great, but they didn't need to be great. It was 100-plus yards, 4.5 per carry, success rate good, situational, 4-minute offense. Like, I mean, just get back to that level. Even worse than that, I'll take. Like, even if it's a little below that, if they're just running it situationally, I mean, that's good enough, given that Ben is the driver of this thing. So, yeah, it's frustrating for sure.
Right. I mean, they can't get a guy out on the edge or anything, How about try some of them pin and pulls or what? I don't know. You know how I feel about the two and three tight ends, or the two tight ends and the extra linemen. Not a big fan of that. I'd just much rather see them spread it out and go that way.
Right. Yeah, one thing I noticed, and it goes back to the whole lack of physicality, and this is actually in pass pro, but we know the pass pro can be physical, and I tweeted a clip of this, and I think you saw it as well. Some of these defensive linemen that are jumping into throwing lanes and batting down passes and stuff like that, when these guys jump, when defensive linemen jump, you got to hit them. You got to knock them down. I mean, you got to make them pay for jumping. You can't let these guys just have free reign to get throwing lanes, and the fact that I'm not even seeing that from this O-line just says they're not playing with an edge, they're not playing with that physical, nasty demeanor, and that's translating to a lack of physicality in the run game.
And as we talked, kind of wrapping this up because we got to get our guest on here in a minute. You got to push the football down the field more with Ben. Plain and simple. I mean, if that means one thing that you will see Josh Allen do is you'll see him hold the football a little bit, and you will see him go vertically down the field. And look, I don't think Ben has to do 15 more times of that, but I 3 or 4 more times down the field, and look, Claypool's having a good rookie season, and included in that is the fact that he leads the NFL in defensive pass interference penalties with 8, and leads in yardage drawn. So a lot of times, he might not come down with the football, but maybe you get yardage off of it, via pass center. I would take my chances a little bit more that way. And then also, and maybe we'll talk about this on the other side of the break here, is the fact that, they're going to have to start using Juju more down the field a little bit more than or a lot more than what they've been using them down the field so far.
Yeah. That's a really good segue. So we'll talk about, can you attack this Buffalo Bills defense vertically? We'll discuss that with our guest. It is Matt Parrino, Buffalo Bills beat reporter for Syracuse.com. Dave, let's talk to Matt, and we will be back in just a moment.
Okay, welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. It is Friday. It is Week 14 of the NFL, and on Sunday night, the Pittsburgh Steelers will play the Buffalo Bills on the road. An exciting AFC matchup, a rematch of the game between these two teams that took place at Heinz Field last season that Buffalo came away victorious in. We're pleased to have a first-timer, a beat writer who covers the Buffalo Bills on the show. You know how we feel about these first-timers. We always like to give them the love and shout-outs on Twitter as well, too. This time we have Matt Parrino on the show. Matt covers the Buffalo Bills for Syracuse.com. New York Upstate is one of the Twitter feeds where you can find him, at Syracuse.com. And with that, we have Matt Parrino. Matt, welcome to the Terrible Podcast. How are you? Thanks for being on the show.
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me. We got quite a football game to talk about.
Absolutely, we do. And first and foremost, you've been busy this morning. The Bills signed GM Brandon Beane to an extension there. Obviously, he's had a huge impact with that organization since arriving. I think it was maybe 2017, around in there. Boy, time gets away from you there. Why don't you start first by talking about how big a deal that is to get Brandon Beane locked up and what he's brought to this organization, to the Bills organization overall.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge deal. I mean, you talk about the two of them, Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane, they've completely, changed the culture. And I know that that's a cliche that gets thrown around in the football world quite a bit. But in this case, it's really important because the culture that they were changing was a losing culture that was, kind of mitigated over the course of a 17-year playoff drought that these two guys ended. And Brandon has done a great job of building the roster, building the staff, helping to build the coaching staff as well, along with Sean McDermott, obviously. And they found the quarterback. That's kind of the most important piece of all of this. And not only did they find the quarterback, and it's something I talk about ad nauseum when I go on these shows, is the trick of it is you can't just find the quarterback. You got to find the quarterback, and then the work starts. You got to build around the quarterback. You got to get the right coaches. You got to get offensive linemen. You got to get weapons, and you have to have patience. And they've had all those things. And he checks a lot of boxes. The people around here absolutely love him, and they think that a 5-year deal. This is going through 2025. They think that this is a sustainable model for success. And so we'll find out as this thing goes along.
Absolutely. They're having a great season, obviously, this year. And you talk about the quarterback there. Absolutely, they have the quarterback in Josh Allen, fresh off of winning AFC Offensive Player of the Week there for that performance that he had against the 49ers there. Look, we've watched enough film on him. He's a big guy. There's a lot of comparisons sometimes to Ben Roethlisberger because his ability to ward off the pass rush and then extend plays, and he's got the big arm to get the football down the field on top of it. We all know that by now. We've seen him enough of that. But what I want you to do is talk about what areas. I mean, you've obviously covered this team long enough now. You've seen him from day one on. What areas specifically has he gotten better in?
It's really, you could probably write a small book on it because when he came in, he was so raw, and the decision-making, I don't think that it was necessarily bad decision-making, like that he couldn't do it or that, there was a lack of IQ, because he's a really, really smart guy. And that's one of the things that I think the Bills, Beane and McDermott, really saw in him. It was just not seeing that at this speed and at this level coming from Wyoming. I mean, that's the long and short of it. Sometimes you got to allow for a player that plays at that level to take some time and to go through the repetitions. You could just see the lights going on in his head week after week after week as he was able to see new things, even over the course of last season. Like I remember it was the Baltimore Ravens game where they sent a zero blitz at him just over and over and over again in that game. And they just absolutely broke him down. It's something that he was completely confused by. He panicked. He made bad decisions. Well, the few teams this year that have tried to do that and implement that, he's torched them. And that's because he's learning. Now, don't get me wrong. It helps to have a guy like Stephon Diggs and a Cole Beasley that are ultimate route runners, separation wizards that you can count on being open every time you drop back the pass. But Allen's incremental development has a lot to do with Brian Dable, Ken Dorsey, Jordan Palmer out in California, the patience, and the fact that he was going – Brandon said it on his call today. He got the sense from when he talked to Josh Allen during the draft process that he was going to exhaust every possible thing to become a great player, and that's a big part of this too.
When you look at the offensive line, probably not a lot of familiar names to a lot of people overall. Maybe Mitch Morse might be the most. Well, Brian Winters. I think a lot of people probably know who Brian Winters is if they follow the game fairly close, and Mitch Morse at center. But a lot of the other guys, especially maybe the tackles. Daryl Williams, I think, at right tackle, and Deion Dawkins on the other side there. how is this offensive line played top to bottom this year? How would you kind of rank them? And I think the big question maybe going into this weekend is that the guard position with John Feliciano. I think he's a little questionable, a little bit iffy right now. How big a deal would it be if he can't play?
It would be a big deal because, as you mentioned, Brian Winters, he's actually been benched. They went with the undrafted free agent from 2018 who's just kind of hung around, Ike Bucker. He got a start at left guard, and they really like what he has. He was the top graded offensive lineman in that game on Monday night by Pro Football Focus. So he's going to be at left guard, Mitch Morse, and then it would be Winters if Feliciano can't go. But I think the big story this year on this line is those tackles that you mentioned. Deion Dawkins, a guy that Sean McDermott drafted in his first draft before Bean was hired a few months later after Doug Whaley was let go. And Daryl Williams from Carolina. This guy was a second-team All-Pro in 2017, had a horrible knee injury. They tried to find a home for him after a year off in Carolina last year. They played him at left guard, center, right guard, right tackle, and nothing really stuck. And the Bills had that familiarity with Carolina, the Carolina to Buffalo pipeline that everybody jokes about. And they brought him in, gave him a chance, locked him in at right tackle, and he's been, for the most part, probably their most consistent pass blocker all season long. And Deion Dawkins, he's an athletic freak. That's what Bobby Johnson, the offensive line coach, told me. Like, the power that he has it's very rare. And he's coming. They rewarded him. They gave him the big deal this offseason. He's one of those first guys, along with Tre'Davious White, that's gotten that long-term extension from this regime. So yeah, the offensive line, their strength is pass blocking. The run game is still struggling, but I think that those matchups on the edge are going to be fun with TJ Watt.
Is Feliciano going to play? What's your gut feeling on Feliciano and his status?
My gut feeling is that he's going to play.
Okay.
He's been limited, and he's a tough guy. He was out. He missed most of the early part of the season with a pec injury, and he's been chomping at the bit to get back. I know they probably won't want to rush him there, but he's kind of a warrior. I think he's going to want to get out there.
Matt, you touched on some of the top weapons of this offense, Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, but I want to know more about Gabriel Davis. He feels like one of the more underrated weapons in the game, leads the team in touchdowns, fifth in the league in yards per reception. How much do Steeler fans worry about Davis getting vertical on Pittsburgh Sunday night?
Well, yeah, they're catching him at an interesting time because I feel like when John Brown went out earlier in the season, and just to give you a little background, the reason I think Gabriel Davis had so much immediate success is because he could kind of be that guy in the background when the top three guys are kind of doing their job. Teams kind of forgot about him, and he made some plays early on. But now with John Brown out with the foot and knee injury, not injured reserve, he stepped into that number 2 wide receiver role, and he's continued to play well. And I'd argue that he's elevated his game. He's a great downfield threat. He doesn't have like top end speed, but again, great route runner that can get separation. And if you can get a little separation, Josh Allen's figured out a way to get all these guys the ball. And he's just a guy that I think in most years in the draft would have went probably early second round, late first round. But because this was such a stacked wide receiver class, people kind of forgot about him. And he set records at UCF. And he's got future number 1 receiver potential. I mean, that's the kind of stock that he comes from. Brandon Marshall's a big fan. Obviously, he broke his records at UCF. They worked out in the offseason together. And but no, he's been another guy that, like, under the radar, to your point, that, like, he's a big reason why that this offense has taken off the way that it has.
When I think of what in part makes his Buffalo team so successful, I think of the coaching staff, Sean McDermott, Leslie Frazier, but as you mentioned earlier, Brian Daboll as the OC. What has he done to kind of make all the pieces work? What makes him such an effective offensive coordinator for this Bills offense?
You know, he's kind of the head coach in a lot of ways on the offense, right? Like, that's the kind of marriage that you have to have when you're a defensive head coach and you bring in a play caller and kind of let them have the keys on that side of the ball. And to Sean McDermott's credit, I mean, they really take ego out of it, and everybody kind of does their thing, and there's a collaborative effort. I think that's why him and Brandon Beane have worked so well together. Is they don't agree on everything. I mean, they're upfront about it, but they all allow each other to kind of do their jobs. And with Brian, he brings a creativity, a wealth of knowledge from success and failures over the course of his career. I mean, This guy was with the Patriots for years, won a couple Super Bowls with them in various roles. He had a couple failed offensive coordinator stints with the Browns and the Chiefs and the Dolphins. And then he went back to New England after all those few failures, learned the game, studied under Dante Scarnecchia on the offensive line, and just really built from the ground up, block by block. That's one of the things that Brandon liked about him when they were talking to him early on when they were bringing him on as OC. And he went down to Alabama. He was with Nick Saban down there, and then he became the coach here. And what I like the OC here, what I like about him the most though is he's not afraid to take things that work from other places and implement them. He's not afraid to ask his quarterback. Josh Allen's been very vocal about this. What do you like? What don't you like that I'm installing here in the scheme, in the game plan week to week? We'll put in what you like and we'll take out what you don't. And that's important. If you have that rapport and that relationship, there's implicit trust on both sides. I think that's a big thing. In this game, as I'm sure you guys know, ego can be a really bad ingredient in a recipe when guys are trying to have success. And there's just not a lot of ego here. I think that's one of the reasons it works.
When you look at offensively and the personnel groupings that they're using right now, I think the Bills are like, especially in early downs, first and second downs, probably somewhere in the top 5 when it comes to using 3 or 4 more wide receivers on the field. Now we'll see them use a guy like Singletary, and they'll treat him like a wide receiver. I mean, they'll split him outside. They'll go empty set quite a bit. Now the Steelers are probably going to have to play a lot of nickel defense. They had Vince Williams go on the COVID list yesterday. They're really hampered at the inside linebacker position right now, and that's probably going to wind up maybe them, and it might work out better in the Steelers' favor if it happens this way. But do you expect Buffalo to kind of stay who they are offensively, and meaning playing a lot of 3 or 4 wide receivers, or will they maybe try to take advantage of the Steelers, not having good depth at that linebacker, and then put an extra tight end or an extra fullback on the field, and then try to run at them more that way?
I think it's going to be an evolving kind of thing. I think it's kind of going to be what happened last year in a way that they kind of felt things out throughout the course of the game and see what was going to work. But I do think that with the missing, like with Bud Dupree not being there, I don't think that there's a fear for the Steelers pass rush like there was with him in the lineup. So I think that with that in mind, I still think that they can go to those 3-4 wide receiver looks and try to attack with their speed, because what we learned in this 49ers game is, of course, the Bills have been giving teams problems to try to play man, because these guys covering one-on-one against Diggs and Beasley and Brown has not worked this year. But now in zone, they're figuring out different ways to attack windows and get more time for Josh back there, which that's where one part of his game where he's really good. He's a good runner once he gets past the line of scrimmage, but he also uses that to move around back there and evade the pocket and break contain, and that's when a lot of the chaos starts. So, to your point, I think the Bills haven't been a great running team this year, so I don't think it's something that they could go in and rely on and say, hey, we're going to run the ball. They did it against the Patriots. The Patriots, as we saw last night, cannot stop anybody from running the ball. So I don't think that that's a wise game plan. I still think you're going to see Josh Allen throw it in this game.
When you flip over to the defensive side of football, you don't see one. I mean, they have what I think 30 sacks this year, but boy, they got like 15 guys that got a hand in some of them. So it's coming from all over the place. How are they blitzing wise? I mean, percentage wise, are you seeing kind of a more of that, less of that? Are they able to create pressure with just 4, or are they having to use? Are they having to manipulate more via, say, a blitz or disguise?
I think traditionally Leslie Frazier hasn't been an ultra aggressive blitzer. But what I think they realized this year is, first of all, their defensive line is undersized. I mean, they lost Jordan Phillips, they lost Shaq Lawson, and they lost their one technique, Star Lotulelei, who opted out before the season. Mm-hmm. And so with that in mind, it's tough to generate pressure with that 4 because you don't really have that true space-eating double team eater that Star was. So what they've done is they've kind of unleashed A.J. Klein in that role with Matt Milano out. He was the AFC Defensive Player of the Week last week. He had 4.5 sacks in 3 games, and really just found his niche there. And we saw Matt Milano. He's another guy they like to use as a blitzer. And they've used Tremaine Edmonds, the middle linebacker, as a blitzer much more this year than in his first 2 years. And Jordan Poyer, somebody you always got to worry about. Taron Johnson. I think they even sent Levi Wallace, the right corner, on a blitz last week. So they're going to blitz. They're going to try to get pressure on Ben Roethlisberger any way they can. And what they're really good at is they have two experienced, athletic, heady, great disguising safeties in Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer that don't let teams beat you deep. And I know I've read a lot this week that, Pittsburgh is not really attacking down the field right now. A lot of it's like in that short to intermediate area. And that could be somewhere they have success, because the one area where this defense struggles is consistency in tackling. And there's been missed tackles. There's been guys out of position at different times when they've struggled. So that's an area where, they like to get pressure. They force some turnovers. But if you don't tackle against Pittsburgh, I think that could be a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, especially on that look. They have not been pushing the football down the field. It'll be interesting to see when Ben sees the one high safety. That's usually when he tries to work on the outside. But we all know how good a player Tre'Davious White is. Definitely scouted him quite a bit coming out. When he came out of LSU, one of the top cornerbacks now in the league. But how are their safeties playing overall when they do get into playing maybe some more of that single high man? Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde over there. Is this a team that can occasionally be beat over the top outside of the hash marks?
They do a really good job scheme-wise, game plan-wise of putting their guys in a position to be successful. The one guy who's struggled quite a bit recently is Levi Wallace on the outside. I think that's a guy that teams try to attack, because you really can't attack on Tre'Davious White's side. He's shown it. I mean, teams do whatever they can to not throw to that side of the field, because he moves around so well that you'll see a lot of his interceptions are, creative plays where he just kind of goes off, the concept and makes a play and when you're not expecting it. So I think that the area that you really want to watch is Levi Wallace. We've talked about him this week with the coaching staff. There still seems to be a level of belief in him. And I think, but they have Josh Norman too. And they got another guy in Dane Jackson from Pittsburgh who they really like. He played 2 games earlier this season. So that's the one area. And, tackling, like, get the ball to Chase Claypool and just let him kind of, work up his way up the field, see what happens. That could be an interesting option for the Steelers.
As Dave and you mentioned, Tre'Davious White having a great season, 6 picks last year, has 3 this year, 3 of those 4 coming in the last 4 games. Is he going to play a side? Do you think he'll shadow a receiver? How will they use him against Pittsburgh?
It's a good question. I don't know if there's a single receiver going into the game that they would want to shadow, because I think that Juju and Deontay and Claypool, they all offer interesting things. I think they're definitely going to probably utilize their zone scheme, move Trey around or wherever it ends up. But what we have noticed in the past is if a team does start having success with one receiver that maybe doesn't have a DeAndre Hopkins or a Julio Jones, Tre'Davious White will usually end up finding his way to that player. So I think that the key to this one, though, for me, is turnovers. The Bills have been really, really good when they force turnovers and when they've taken care of the ball. So if you could do those 2 things, I really think that this offense could probably score enough points at home. But we'll see. I mean, I think you're going to get you guys would know better than me, but I have a feeling you have a very agitated Pittsburgh Steelers team that's coming to town this week.
Yeah, that's true. But a team that needs to catch the football as well if they're going to have success.
Yeah, you got to catch it when you throw it.
Yeah, you can't be overly frustrated. Just a 30,000-foot view, Matt, because you said the hallmarks of this team: good quarterback play, good coaching, defense takes the football away. Does Buffalo legitimately have Super Bowl aspirations this year, or do you guys think that you're 1 year away from being in that serious top-tier conversation?
It's interesting. I think the fact that if this wasn't a COVID year where there's all these other variables that could throw teams through just any kind of craziness, I'd probably say that in seriousness, they're probably still a year away. But you really look at the matchups, and like the thing about the AFC is to beat the Chiefs. And right now, I think that is the Bills, because they have two guys on the defensive side in McDermott and Leslie Frazier that, in a one-game situation to devise a game plan after playing them and seeing what worked and didn't earlier in the season, I think they might have a chance at keeping them to a number that your offense can surpass, because that's what this Bills offense is going to be now in January. They're going to be battle-tested. They're going to have seen everything that every team, every good defense has thrown at them. And I just am wondering if Kansas City will be able to keep up with that after, this Bills offense didn't play well against the Chiefs in the first game. So I guess from that perspective, I'd say yes, but I still feel like the Chiefs are the class of the league, and I just don't see anybody beating them, because in the fourth quarter, as good as here's another thing. Josh Allen has been amazing in the fourth quarter, even going back to his rookie season. But I would still take Patrick Mahomes in the fourth quarter over anybody. So we started the Super Bowl last year.
Absolutely.
Real quick.
Go ahead.
Real quick. I'm sorry to interrupt, Dave. But how did the Bills make Mahomes and especially Tyreek Hill look mortal? I think Hill had like 3 catches for 20 yards in that game. What did they do conceptually to kind of slow down the Chiefs' attack?
Well, they acted as the matador, and they flipped back their red flag and let Clyde Edwards-Helaire go anywhere he wanted. They didn't stop the run at all. And they basically were like, all right, you're going to run the ball down our throats all night long. You're going to enjoy it and score some points. And I think Patrick Mahomes did have 2 touchdown passes in that game. Kelsey still had himself a pretty good game, but they kept him under 30 points. I think it was 25 points they scored. And so theoretically, if your offense shows up that's averaging close to 30 a game, you should win that game. And so we'll see if they employ a similar strategy. I think that they'll be healthier and more continuity on the front and the back end. I think in that game they had Josh Norman, who's not starting now, and I think he was a little bit banged up. So if they have their full complement, no Matt Milano in that game as well. So if they have their full complement of defensive players, that's going to be a fun game. All these teams, I think if Pittsburgh wound up in a matchup against the Chiefs, I know things aren't going well right now, but I still think that's going to be a barn burner.
All right, Matt, what do you have for us here? Start winding you down. Obviously, look, Buffalo probably the healthier team coming into this one. The one, obviously riding high off of the performance that Josh Allen had against the 49ers. They look to really be clicking okay offensively. I know there's a little bit of question probably about the defensive side of play going into this one, but you got as you put it, kind of a wounded, kind of mad Steelers team that 11-1 here, but this game is in Buffalo. It's not surprising that the line has shifted the way it has shifted this week, and really the smart money going on Buffalo. We always ask our guests, Matt, to kind of predict this thing and throw a score out there for us, if they will. Which way do you have this one going?
Yeah, it's a tough game. I mean, I think I picked Pittsburgh going into the year. Taking everything into account and the way that the Bills are playing and the way that they answered on Monday night, it's tough for me to pick against them in this spot. And I think that they got a lot of monkeys off their back last year, taking out Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. It's going to be tough to do it again, but I'm going with the Bills. I think Josh Allen will outplay Ben Roethlisberger, and I don't got a score for you yet, though. I'm still working on that.
All right, and I think you mentioned that you have a podcast. Tell us a little bit about the podcast. I think you have an episode maybe coming tonight. Tell our listeners what they'll find if they tune in to your podcast.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the playoffs coming up, we're doing a series where we're bringing somebody on from all the AFC playoff teams to kind of dive into that. We had somebody from Cleveland.com last week to dive into the Browns, so that's in the archives now. But yeah, it's the Shout Bills football podcast. We have a preview episode every week, a post-game episode every week, and then we have a big Wednesday show that kind of hits on all different kind of things. So it'd be great to dive into that right before this matchup on Sunday.
All right, and people can follow you on Twitter at Matt Parrino. That's Parrino. And Matt, be careful. We got a lot of people like to reach out and shout out to the opposing beat writers when they have them on in a friendly manner. So don't be worried about that. But you probably pick up a lot of followers from this. And look, should something happen that these two teams wind up getting together in the playoffs, which I think is a distinct possibility at this point right now, we'd love to have you back on a couple of weeks from now when that happens as well too. All right.
Sounds great. Thanks so much for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt. And welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. Again, our thanks to Matt Parrino, the Bills beat writer for Syracuse.com and the Shout Bills podcast. Be sure to shout him out on Twitter at Matt Parrino, Parrino. Dave, good to have Matt on the show, and thankful for his insight.
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure you get on them and give them that Terrible Podcast welcome on the Twitter machine if you're on that, like a lot of you do. Because Alex, I got a funny feeling we might be talking to Matt again at some point during the playoffs here. The Bills, I think, are obviously headed that direction and are going to be in the playoffs. And I have a feeling the way things work out that there's a good chance that the Steelers and the Bills will meet again. Meet more than once past Sunday night there. So good to have him on. Good slug. I don't think we could find a beat writer in time last year for the Bills. So hopefully we've secured a good one here in Matt.
Yeah, I think we did. Quick sidebar before we jump into our own preview of the Bills game. Hopefully for playoffs, there will be fans. There will not be any more fans at Heinz Field in the regular season for their final regular season home game against the Colts, December 27th. No fans for that one based on new PA restrictions that'll go into effect Saturday and run through January 4th. And so next chance for fans will be playoffs. Will that happen? Who knows? But just a quick lay of the land right there.
Yeah, and also speaking of Steelers and potential playoff chances, it's pretty simple when it comes to that. I mean, obviously, if they win or tie Buffalo Sunday, they secure a playoff spot. If they win and Cleveland loses, I believe, to Baltimore on, when is that one? Monday. That's Monday night, isn't it?
Primetime game.
Yeah,
sometime Monday.
Right.
Sunday, yeah.
If they do that, they can secure the AFC North. However, before they even get to Sunday night, there's a chance that they could have a playoff spot locked up as well if one of or more Las Vegas, Miami, or here it is, Las Vegas or Miami. If either one of those teams loses or ties their game, obviously both of them could lose or tie, the Steelers will get in. Or if Tennessee straight up loses their game there. So I like the odds a lot better going into this weekend for the Steelers clinching at least a playoff spot than I did last week. And look, the AFC North's laying out there as well too, but obviously the Steelers have to beat Buffalo in order for that to happen, and then Cleveland has to lose to Baltimore on Monday night, which obviously is a possibility of that happening there. So hopefully by Monday, at the very by the time we get on this thing Monday, recapping this game against the Bills, the Steelers at the very minimum have a playoff spot locked up.
Sure, rooting for that for sure. Until we review the game, let's preview the game, Dave, and talk about this Buffalo Bills team. Obviously coming off that big convincing win over the 49ers on, was that Monday night, right?
Yeah, Monday. Short week for them too.
And they're a good team. Led by Josh Allen, who's having a breakout year, completing almost 70% of his passes. He's now tied for second in team history in passing touchdowns in a season with 26. He's probably going to break that's Joe Kelly's record, who set in like the 91, I believe, with 33. So Allen on pace to break that. It's a good team overall. So what concerns you the most about this Bills offense matching up against Pittsburgh?
Yes.
Does it start with Josh Allen? Because to me, it starts with number 7.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, they have a lot of elements right now in that offense that you say, boy, I sure wish the Steelers would be able to do that. It starts with Josh Allen and his ability to push the football down the field. You see not only his ability to extend the plays. Obviously, that's not planned a lot, but it is a byproduct sometimes of pressure there. A lot of their route concepts you'll see will attack down the seam. You'll see some levels concept with them being able to take advantage of the stellar route running of one Stephon Diggs and Beasley as well too. You mentioned the third wide receiver over there and the ability to stretch the field down there with him as well too. They give time for Josh Allen to go through his reads and deliver those balls down the field. And when it's not a timing issue like that, once again, he has a big arm. He can make plays outside of the pocket, his ability to scramble that way as well. And the thing that's back to the arm itself is he is a quarterback that can throw off platform. He does not need obviously mechanics are key. You like to see it more times than not, but he is a guy that can have his feet pointed in one direction and him throw the football 35 yards on a rope the other direction.
Right.
And then not only that, he will run with the football. They obviously don't have the design runs that, say, a team like Baltimore Lamar Jackson does. But this is a guy that's he's a load, man. When they will do some design reads on him, and then obviously if you play a lot of man coverage, you can get away with it more with a guy like him. But he is a guy that will get 8 yards in a heartbeat if he does not like what he sees against single high and man coverage, and the corners have their backs turned.
Yeah, it feels like there's fewer design runs this year than past years, but obviously they're still capable of that. He'll sneak, he can scramble, and he's obviously, I think rightfully so, earned a lot of comparisons to the way Ben was coming out. They're not two dissimilar type guys overall, and Allen's really kind of broken out this year, and it's in part thanks to the bevy of weapons he has, acquisition of Stephon Diggs, who leads the NFL. I think he's second in targets, actually. He's tied for the lead in receptions with Keenan Allen with 90. Then there's Cole Beasley in the slot, and as we talked about with Matt, Gabriel Davis, who kind of reminds me of the way we talked about Cam Sims last week as a guy you don't know much about, but a big play threat that we'll probably be talking about more post game, and that's what happened against Washington. I think there's the danger for that to happen with Davis, because what John Brown caught a big vertical play to basically beat Pittsburgh last year. He's not available this game, but Davis is kind of in that John Brown role of being just a big play vertical type guy, and that's going to be a guy that's going to stretch the field vertically, so at the very least it'll open things up horizontally and underneath, even if Davis doesn't make the play himself.
And they being as how they use, I expect them to use a lot of 3 and 4 wide receiver sets in this, and because of the way they're not afraid to use Devin Singletary in the offense by splitting them out wide. Their pre-snap, their ability pre-snap to diagnose what opposing defenses are is very, very easy. They'll break the huddle and they'll send Devin Singletary out to see if a linebacker follows him or not. And at that point, if a linebacker does, they know instantly they're facing man. They can collapse Singletary back down quickly, bring him back to the backfield that way. So they're gonna be able to win the game or win the down pre-snap a lot of times in diagnosing what the opposing defense is going to be versus man or zone that way, and then build up off of that. They'll use some play action. They'll use both of their backs. They'll use Zach Moss in this offense as well too. They're not afraid. They don't run a lot. But when they do run, they're not afraid to run out of spread. Their tight ends are okay. I mean, Dawson Knox is obviously an athletic specimen. The Steelers should know quite a bit about Tyler Kroft, I believe, from his time with the Bengals, right?
Yep.
And then I'm assuming Lee Smith is healthy, and they obviously can bring him in certain situations there. But plain and simple, this is a team that likes to big play you and push the football down the field. And why wouldn't they when they have a quarterback in Josh Allen? So I think you've got to get the pressure with the 4. If you have to manipulate pressure via sending somebody, you're really setting yourself up.
I don't mean to gush, but how good would it be to have a Lee Smith on this team right now? I know I mentioned it earlier.
But is he playing a lot,
I mean, he's not, but is he playing in critical situations in those short yardage, got-to-have-it moments? I mean, just to have that versatility for those moments, I think, is be nice to have. But the tight end that worries me is Dawson Knox, because he hasn't been healthy this year. He's missed some time. The stats don't look good. He was only played in like 6 games, and given the issues at inside linebacker and the overall issues this team has had covering tight ends this year, even when they had Devin Bush and those guys, you see the issues against Noah Fant, Logan Thomas last week, etc. I'm worried that they're really going to attack the middle of the field, maybe even some corner routes, but with a guy like Dawson Knox, and Pittsburgh's going to struggle given their lack of options, and Abe Williamson in coverage is not something you want to see too often, but you're kind of forced to Sunday.
The Steelers have activated Marquise Pouncey off the COVID list. So there's that breaking news. We've been hoping we might get during this show here. So at least the Steelers have that going for them. Look, this offense scares you. The good thing is the chess match with what the Steelers are going to do defensively, especially the second linebacker, not having Vince Williams in this game, how they stack up defensively. Do they do a lot of dime? Do they, how they combat that's going to be key to this. And another key point too is it goes back to what I just said. You got to figure out a way to get pressure on Josh Allen with 4 and not let him break contain too terribly often and kill you. He's going to make plays down the field, plain and simple. They are going to make plays down the field. How you defend inside the red zone might become one of the key aspects to this game. They are going to get inside the red zone. Are you? Can you keep them to, let's say, 1-4? I think that's going to be the biggest aspect of this game.
They're also, I believe, the best third down offense in football, converting around 49% of the time. So as you mentioned and are touching on with that comment, situational football will be really key. Did you see, not to go back with the Washington game too much, but did you see any difference in how Pittsburgh got after the quarterback without Bud Dupree, or did you feel like it was pretty much the same game plan, just with obviously Highsmith instead of Bud Dupree?
I don't think I focused on that as much, but it felt like they was just sending 4.
Right, but nothing different. I mean, the only thing I noticed was, and I still want to go through and chart it a little bit clearer, because sometimes you don't know if stuff was game plan specific or Dupree specific. I felt like there were some more defensive tackle stunts where you had Tuitt and Hayward stunting with each other, or Alualu or Hayward stunting with each other, and maybe that felt like one slight new wrinkle to try to create some more pressure with the 4-man rush.
Look, they got they got to get home with 4. And they're going to.
They can do that? Do you think they're capable of
I think they can. I think they can. But I do think they're going to have to stunt a little bit on this. I mean, I want to see. Watt's got to have a big game. All right. He's, and not only that, he's going to have to, if he gets to Allen, he's going to have to get that football out of there. The Steelers are going to have to get some short fields in this game. I think they're going to have to score a few points in this game. I think as well too. They're going to have to win on the edge. Look, it's going to be probably a stalemate over there with Highsmith on the other side there against that tackle. Anything gravy, if you can get kind of a similar game that you got out of Highsmith against Washington, I think you take it. Obviously, if he could get you a sack or a turnover, fine. But I think that Deion Dawkins versus Highsmith is pretty much a wash over there. I'd like it better, obviously, if Bud Dupree was in this one as well. But Daryl Williams versus Watt should be a good one. And look, if Feliciano's not 100% at one of those guard spots, and you got a backup like Boker in there, it could be present an interesting matchup, I think, in favor of guys like Cam Hayward and Stephon Tuitt, right? I think
sure.
they can get pressure with 4. They're going to have to get pressure with 4, and they're going to have to wreak havoc in there. They're going to have to sack Josh Allen 3 or 4 times and get that football out 1 or 2 times.
Absolutely. Yeah, Cam Hayward, that bull rush, just every week he just overpowers no matter who he's facing, but he's facing a lesser player, then that's certainly going to benefit him. Anything else with Bills offense you want to discuss, or you want to flip over to previewing the Buffalo Bills defense?
Yeah, just look, you're going to have to tackle the catch on this. Diggs, they did a great job last week on Scary Terry and all like that, and you're not going to shut Diggs down, I don't think, especially with that quarterback,
The concern is it feels like Buffalo has more weapons than Washington in the past game. Well, even if you take Diggs away, they still got Beasley and Knox and Davis to worry about.
And look, they saw what McKissick did, and Singletary can catch the ball out of the backfield, You got to get these guys down to the ground first and foremost. You can't let them run crazy after catch. And look, the unfortunate thing about it is the difference between Alex Smith and Josh Allen is Allen can extend the play and he can make the throws down the field when he does. So, more than anything, Diggs is going to at least have 3 or 4 catches for 60 or 70 yards, just off the aspect that a couple of those might come after the play's extended. Keep Diggs out of the end zone. Plain and simple. And it goes back to what I said once again. If I expect the Bills to be in the red zone 3 or 4 times, all right, can you prevent them from scoring 3 or 4 times touchdowns in the red zone? That's going to be the biggest aspect. You got to make those guys settle for field goals when they get down there.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, the problem is you're facing a much different quarterback. Alex Smith, you could force a check down, tackle the catch. Josh Allen's not going to let you do that all game. He's going to take his shots for sure.
Right. You got to make him make a mistake or something. You can play a little bit more man, I think, than obviously against a guy like Mahomes or Lamar Jackson and all like that. But trying to get him to make a mistake's the tough thing.
Yeah. But Buffalo's defense, not as strong of a unit. The run defense in particular is suffering. I think they're 27th in yards per carry allowed. They got a good corner in Trey White, of course, the safeties that Matt talked about. But the Buffalo defense, what scares you, Dave?
Tre'Davious White.
I don't. Good place to start.
I don't go after him. And look, Tremaine Edmonds, a very talented a guy that can go sideline to sideline with you. They are small up front though, right? And I think that's one of the things that Matt pointed out to us here. But if ever there was a time to get your power running game on track, it's this one, right? To try to.
Do you want to go tight? Because I know you're kind of.
No. I think you try to get your running game going. Unfortunately, out of spread, because I think you need the threat of that. I think you need to spread these guys out, and try to go that way and try to attack the gaps up the middle that way. A byproduct of running the football successfully in this game is ball control. Obviously, if you win the time of possession, that's less that Josh Allen can be on the field, right? It's the old Tom Brady mentality in this one. He can't beat you if he's not on the field. Right. So that aspect of it as well too. You got to figure out a way to run the football here, and the other aspect too is they're not overly great. In man situations. So if you do try to spread them out, I think that quick passing game can work against this defense. But make no mistake about it, you're going at some point you got to push the football down the field, and especially if you get into this game and potentially down on the scoreboard. All right, they'll probably give you that dink and dunk aspect of it there. Somebody going to have to break a tackle or two in this game. And I think you're working on a piece on Juju potentially. I don't know if you're going to get it out this weekend or not, but
I am. What's the topic?
Yeah, you just got to get him. You got to get him the ball down the field more, as opposed to him being more of a safety valve for you underneath.
Yeah, I don't think I didn't have anything planned for an article on that. I want to get together some of the route trees though from last year to this year, because obviously he's being used a lot more shallow underneath than than last year. And last year he was playing more on the outside, so some of that just comes with the territory or where you're playing. I think for me, the biggest thing I'll be watching it in this one is just, Buffalo's pressure package. Not that their pass rush has been amazing this year, but they blitz at a pretty heavy clip, and they absolutely torched Pittsburgh on some of those nickel and safety blitzes last year. Granted, of course, the Hodges started that game. Ben will be able to solve those problems better than Hodges would, but I would just be interested to see, because a lot of teams are adjusting to Pittsburgh by not blitzing. Baltimore, for example, in that rematch game, they came into that game blitzing more than any other team in football. They barely blitzed that game. They were dropping 8 and playing zone coverage a ton, especially on third down. So will Buffalo play into their strength, which is more pressure, get after the quarterback and manufacture it, or will they kind of follow suit of what other teams have done, Washington, Baltimore in particular, and play more conservatively zone coverage, dropping your edge rushers and your pass rushers as opposed to going forward. So it'll be an interesting cat and mouse game about how Pittsburgh adjusts to the blitz schemes that burned them last year and how Buffalo adjusts to countering their aggressiveness, which is probably the best way to play the Steelers offense in terms of dropping guys in the coverage and taking away that quick game that Ben relies on.
I tell you what you don't want to do is you don't want to lollipop an out route throw over to Tre'Davious White's side.
You don't want to throw near. Yeah. I wonder if they're going to – you think they're going to shadow, or do you think he's just going to play his side? I mean, what do you think they do with Trey White?
I bet they just keep him on his side to start with there. I mean, I don't say – I could be wrong, but I think they just leave him over on his side over there and let him do his thing and shut down that side.
Yeah, I agree.
Let most of your safety help. You're obviously going to give him his safety help on his side, but for the most part, especially if you're playing him back in some cover 3 situations, he can handle his own over there. I would be more concerned with protecting whatever side he's not on. Look, you can hit Tre'Davious White on some stuff, some hole shots or stuff like that, but the game's not going to be decided off of that. You damn sure don't want to, you don't want to give him an easy read. Yeah, maybe you can double pump. Maybe you set something up with an out route where you got it up underneath there with him playing off in some cover 3. Maybe you hit that a couple of times with some rifle throws there, get 6 or 7 yards. Maybe you try to get him to bite on something, right? A Ben Roethlisberger pump fake, and then maybe get him on a sluggo or something like that. That's really the only way I think that you're going to get him. Other than that, you're going to have to make some contested catches against a guy on the outside.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you don't want to throw to him. The less you throw at him, the better off you're going to be. So I think as Matt said, the matchups with the other corners, Levi Wallace, potentially Josh Norman and company, those are going to be the guys you attack because, yeah, I mean, they'll play man coverage with White on almost every snap. They'll play split coverage and play zone away from him, but they will man him up to make sure that they're utilizing his talent the best way possible, and that's the right approach to have. So, that's a guy I just do not want to even tempt fate on too often.
You can't drop any balls in this game.
I mean, 14 in the last 2 games. I'll say it again. They can't drop 6 or 8 again, can they? I mean, I guess they can, but you hope not. You think not.
What's Ebron's snap count going to be in this game? It potentially could set up to be an okay game for him. Look, Edmonds is a big boy.
22. He's in his 3rd year. It's wild.
And he is a big boy that can move, and he's got size and athleticism to him. But if for some reason he used to get Ebron up the field, with zone or some sort of safety coverage, I think that's an aspect that can be taken advantage of. The question is how much do you trust him right now at this point? Conversely, there are some situations on some skinny post or some slants where you want to probably get the football in the hands of Deontay Johnson out in space, or because of the physicality aspect, can you get the ball to Juju down the field more than 10 yards at a time and let him get some of that hard-earned yak against them? You got to make that secondary not named Tre'Davious White work.
Right. Yeah, you had mentioned about Juju and him not making a lot of plays beyond like 5 yards in the middle of the field, and you're right about that. And we're just trying to figure out the reason why. And my hypothesis, and I'd have to really do a deeper dive in the film study, is that because teams are trying to take away the quick game, they are playing a lot of 8-man boxes, not necessarily to stop the run, although there's a byproduct of that, but it's mostly to try to stop some of the quick game. And because whenever you get 8-man boxes, usually you're playing single high safety, so the middle of the field is closed, and so it's just hard to throw in that area when there's a single high safety as opposed to a two high look when the safeties are on the numbers. For example, where the middle of the field is now more opened up. So I wonder if that's one of the reasons why this team hasn't made a lot of hay in that area of the field, 10, 15 yards plus middle of the field, because safeties are just always sitting there. That's my guess anyway.
Well, I think, and I talked about this last podcast again, right? I mean, Ben's not attacking the middle of the field. He's not throwing.
Right.
Look at his heat. Look at the recent heat map that Next Gen Stats put out.
Yeah, we know he's not, but the question is why.
Yeah, that might have a lot to do it. I just don't. Unless it's a play breaking down, I don't think he likes throwing to the middle of the field. Pass.
Why don't you think he would like to throw?
I don't think he has as much trust right now. Maybe it's in the receivers or what. I just don't think he does.
Okay.
I don't know. Somebody needs to ask him those questions, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody needs to ask him why the hell they're not using play action more. This is the type game, I think, too, if you put him underneath center a couple times with a fullback and a tight end, and if you have a couple successes early in the game, maybe you can hit them with something off of play action here. We just don't see that, and,
right.
A quarterback constantly out of shotgun, play action is a little, because of the quarterbacks being always facing the opposing defense, you don't have that hidden ball trick as element of the play action as much. You see the Rams use it. You see occasionally Mahomes use it. You see some of these other offenses use it, and you just don't see the Steelers use it. So. But even so, I would still like the element of play action to be there, even in shotgun or with some of these motions, sometimes as well.
Honestly, I think the reason why the shotgun play action doesn't work is less about the actual mechanism of the play action, but the hat of the lineman. Because it's a lot harder to sell run at a gun than it is under center. It's just my read of it, because these guys pop up in there and pass pro right away in the gun. They don't really get into a run, low hat read. And so defenders are just keying that, reading that, and that's why play action hasn't been effective. So I agree. If you can get under center more and actually have more, you can sell play action better with the hat of the lineman, the read of the lineman, under center than you can at a gun. That's my interpretation anyway, especially without a quarterback that isn't mobile and you can't really do a lot of boots and stuff with him.
Yeah, but on the flip side, you have about as good a chance seeing Sasquatch this weekend,
As opposed to a play action under center?
Right.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's a problem for the offense, but I think that's the reason why their play action at a gun doesn't work, because, the linemen always pop up high hat read, it's pass read, and no, you're not fooling anybody.
Look, you're either running with Bigfoot or you're running from Bigfoot, right?
What are they doing right now? They're running from Bigfoot?
They're running from Bigfoot. Look, I'm not saying you have to do that 6 or 7 times a game, obviously, because that's not who they. But maybe now's the time to do some things that go way against what you are.
Yeah, because you need to do something new. You keep doing what you're doing, you're going to get what you're getting, which is not good enough. It's not enough to win a Super Bowl.
I think you can take advantage with some things out on the edge of this game. With your running game, whether it be a traditional running game with pin and pull stuff, or crack tosses, or run game alternatives with the quick screens, so you count, and RPOs as well too. I don't think Ben's done a tremendous job of counting boxes, with some RPO stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some times where he would wish he had a reader decision back. I agree though. You got Pouncey back. He's been rested. Not that I want to do it a lot, but once or twice, I'm going to get Pouncey on the perimeter and try to get the ball outside.
And I think you got to continue. Not on 4th and 1, but late in the game on a key down. But I think you got to. I'd like to see them do things that gets the ball in the hands of Anthony McFarland in space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm all for it. He can obviously be a weapon there.
Whether it be lining them up outside and do something that way, crack toss, just try anything that you can do, because they're going to need. How many explosive plays is this offense going to need in this game? 6 at least.
And you're defining that at 15 plus, 20 plus?
No, 20 or more.
20 or more. I don't know a number, but yeah, 5. At least 5 would be nice.
Right, and you're going to have to hold them to 4. 4 or 5, and then you're going to have a turnover or 2 in there, and just a 20-yarder in and of itself, probably not going to be enough. How great. I mean, look, if there's anything optimistic maybe to come out of the game against Washington was, how many times do you expect to see a James Washington 50-yarder catching the ball 6 or 7 yards down the field?
Yeah. What do you think his snap count's going to be? Is it going to still be up, or is Claypool going to see more snaps because he was obviously one of the bigger losers from Washington playing more last week?
You know what I do? I pull Eric Ebron the hell off the damn field this week.
To send the message, or just
all of it? All of it.
Yeah.
All of it.
You're going 10 personnel.
Yes. I'm pulling. I want to see if I can live without Ebron in this game as much as possible here, just for the drops, and I want to present the matchup problem with them. I want to see who covers Juju in the slot. Put Claypool in the other slot. You remember the matchup problem that presented against who was it? Eagles, right?
On the Claypool touchdown, yeah.
Right. I want conflict. I want to see conflict in this game. And yeah, Ebron can give it to you to some degree there, but I obviously you're not going to bench him, but it wouldn't hurt my feelings to see Ebron play about 21, 22 snaps in this game.
And it would honestly maybe help with the run game more. You just spread things out.
Let Claypool crack down inside a little bit, wash down inside.
Right, or just have nobody. Just spread them out, force the defense to displace their guys, play sub-package football, and that may be your best shot at trying to run the football. Just not have as many guys in the box, not many guys involved.
You know what your penalty should be for dropping those balls the last couple of weeks? Blocking on the edge.
That's a punishment for the Steelers' own offense, though. As much as it is.
Well, I mean, those guys can block on the edge. Claypool.
Yeah, you're talking about everybody.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the wide receivers. I'm talking about the punishment for these wide receivers dropping these footballs the last couple of weeks should be blocking out in space there, blocking there.
And they're capable of doing it.
They're capable. I want to be able to talk about on Monday. Oh, man, what'd you think about them being able to spread those guys out and get some plays on the perimeter? Because, boy, what'd you think about Claypool's block or that quick screen over to the side and they're blocking it up just perfectly with them wide receivers? I want to be able to talk about wide receivers blocking and big plays out on the edge. And I want to talk about Ebron having that snap count reduced.
Yeah, no, I think that's very interesting. I don't think there'll be a lot of changes personnel-wise entering the game, but if somebody does drop a pass, especially early, it'd be very interesting to see what Tomlin. So you gotta bench him. You gotta send a message. I mean, you made the statement out there. You have to follow through on it if someone drops a pass.
Right. What did you think about kind of Randy hitting it? Well, because Ben, maybe some of these drops are happening because Ben ain't practicing.
Excuses. Some of these are easy. I don't care who's throwing. I don't care if it's me throwing the football. If you're wide open, make the catch. I don't care about it. Yeah, that's all flimsy excuses to me.
I mean, they just dropping the ball. Period.
Yeah. All right, Dave, any other thoughts on this game on Buffalo?
No, it just scares the hell out of me.
Okay, all right, that's a thought, yeah. It'll be a tough team, for sure. All right, Dave, let's see. Should we make our Week 14 picks?
Let's do it.
All right, and I'm really bad on Thursday night. You picked the Rams last night. I picked the Pats, and you were right.
I had a good feeling about that one. Really. I should have put more units on it than I did there. But all right, within that, I am 1-0. You are 0-1. Tennessee Titans at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Titans on the road, favored by 7.5.
Yeah, give me the Titans. Jacksonville, they're packing it in. I mean, they play team stuff, but I think it ends this week. Yeah,
this is a King Henry game for sure. They just, and AJ, the physicality factor all the way around for Titans should be able to do more than that. It's hard not to make that stone cold lead pipe block of the century of the week of the year.
We haven't had one of those in a while. I'm glad
I don't think so. Yeah, minus 7.5. I'm laying it. Dallas Cowboys in a who care game at Cincinnati Bengals. Line a little bit closer on this than what I would expect. Dallas only favored on the road by 3.5. What you got?
Yeah, give me Dallas. I think that's easy money on that one.
I think it is too. We might have multiple lead pipe blocks of the week here. Give me Dallas to lay that 3.5. Let's hold hands and walk this thing together right now. Arizona Cardinals on the road at the New York Football Giants. Giants playing some good ball right now.
Mm-hmm.
Arizona on the road, favored by 3. However.
Yeah, I mean on the road, Giants are playing tough. I'm gonna go with the Giants in this one. I don't know if they win, but I think they at least make it a really, really tight game.
Arizona got to get this thing back on track, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think they will. I think Kyler Murray and company get it done. I will lay the 3 on the road. Oh, I'm going the road. I'm loading up on the road teams here. Cardinals -3. Houston Texans on the road against the Bears. Another road team favored, this time by 2. Chicago's a mess.
Yeah, I mean, I think road teams actually have a above 500 record this year because of the lack of fans, at least some part of that. So, yeah, I know Houston, it's Deshaun Watson and everyone else, not a lot of supporting cast around him besides J.J. Watt, but long story short, give me Houston.
I'll take another road. Give me Deshaun Watson. I'm all road teams here. Give me the Texans to cover that too. Minnesota on the road against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We have a home team that is favored, 6.5 points.
Dalvin Cook should be available for this one. They got Thielen back. I'm gonna lean Tampa here because of that defense.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with you as well too. I'll take Tampa Bay to lay the. I like them to win this by 7 or 8, just barely cover there. Oh, Miami Dolphins. We'll find out who the Miami Dolphins are this week. Everybody's been pumping them up as of late. They are at home entertaining the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs favored by 7.5.
Yeah, I got to go with KC on this one. It's hard to go against Mahomes and company.
I agree, and I think people after this are going to say, well, maybe it's too soon for maybe all this talk about it was nice, but we see what happens when they have to play somebody. Give me the Chiefs, another road team to cover the spread, lay the 7.5 points. Here's a good one for you, the Colts at the Las Vegas Raiders. This one should be a pretty good one. The Colts favored by 3 on the road with this one.
Raiders are such a tough team to figure out. I mean, they beat the Chiefs and almost beat them again. They get blown up by Atlanta. The Colts feel like a much more stable team with that defense. They're getting healthier, getting DeForest Buckner back. Give me the Colts.
Raiders are getting healthy at the right time at the very least. Yikes. I don't know if the Colts know exactly who they are. I'll take the Colts and lay the 3, but I don't have a lot of this. This has push written all over it. This has Colts winning by a field goal written all over it. The New York Jets on the road against the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks at home laying 13.5. What a big number.
Yeah, even without the 12th man, Seattle at home against the Jets. Give me Seattle.
Yeah, the Jets. I'm not gonna pick them in this one. Give me the Seahawks lay the 13.5. Packers on the road against the Detroit Lions. Packers favored by 8 against the Lions.
Yeah, big fan of the Pack. Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, just really good talent across the board. Give me Green Bay.
Yeah, this doesn't feel like it should be close. This feels like it should be a third lock of the week here. Give me the Packers to lay the 8 on the road here. Atlanta Falcons on the road against the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers, boy, they've been in some close games. They just can't win them, and when they're not in them, they get just blown the mess out by a team like the Patriots there. Falcons favored by 2.5 in this one on the road. Do you smell any rats?
Very conflicted on this one. Two teams that have good offenses. Both teams are really good at finding ways to lose. Somebody has to win this one. No Julio for the Falcons, so give me the Chargers.
Yeah, I'm conflicted on this one as well, too. I'll take the Falcons by a field goal. I'll lay the 2.5 begrudgingly. New Orleans Saints on the road against the Eagles. Aren't the Eagles starting Hurts in this one?
They are.
Oh, what a mess the Eagles have at the quarterback position. Saints laying 7 on the road.
Yeah, and Taysom Hill playing pretty well for the Saints right now. I don't know. Does Jalen Hurts give him some sort of new energy? Maybe, but not enough. Give me the Saints.
Yeah, give me the Saints the latest. Well, I'm loading up. I'm going to lose some money on a road team this week somehow. Washington, I'll take the Saints lay to 7. Washington football team. This should be a good game. Both these teams kind of need this. I think we both agree Washington's a better team than a lot of people gave them credit for. Maybe going into this game, San Francisco, weird start to this game. on Monday night, but Buffalo, easily took control of it. Washington or San Francisco at home, laying 3. I don't like this.
Yeah, at home as in Arizona.
Yeah,
So it's not
Arizona.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I got to give Washington credit. I should have picked them last week. I almost did. I didn't. I got to pick them this week out of respect. Give me Washington.
Give me Washington. I think they win this outright, to be honest with you. I really do. I think they win this outright. Baltimore at Cleveland, Monday night. Ravens on the road, favored by 2. Either Cleveland's going to put up or shut up right now. I mean, all this talk about in the last couple weeks means absolutely nothing if they don't win this game, I think.
Yeah, Baltimore played Cleveland first game of the year, blew them out. I still always have, Pittsburgh and Baltimore as the king of the North until someone can prove they can knock them off. So until Cleveland shows that, I'm going to go Baltimore.
I am as well too. We've seen as good as Baker has played at times. He's missed some throws, right? And as well, I don't think he's been as good as some have made him out to be. Give me Baltimore to win this, not just by 7 or 8 points. I think. What's the narrative on this? What's the narrative on this? If Baltimore wins,
the Cleveland's Cleveland, and they're just the same old Browns.
That they can't beat the teams that they need to beat, basically.
Pretty much. Obviously they beat Tennessee, but in terms of the North, you lose 38-7 to Pittsburgh. What was the score of the Browns Ravens game week 1? It was about 38-7.
Right.
So that would be the story. The Browns are just good, but not good enough.
What's the narrative if Cleveland wins this game?
Yeah, then it flips back to Cleveland's proven themselves, and they're be 10-3 in that scenario, and would be a serious contender, something like that.
And what's the talk about Baltimore if they lose?
Yeah, then their playoff hopes probably really start to dwindle, or at least they're in serious jeopardy. And the question would probably be just lack of a pass game. I'm guessing because even beating the Cowboys, Lamar threw for 104, 127, whatever the number was, and so that's what's holding them back.
All right, Pittsburgh Steelers Sunday night at the Buffalo Bills. One of us is doing it, aren't we? -2 Buffalo at home. I'm not surprised the way the worm turned on the with the man in charge of it here at the early part. You kind of even wondered, man. Way right after the game, Steelers were favored. It didn't take long for that line to shift in Buffalo's favorite here. It got up as high as I think 2.5. My bookie has it Buffalo -2 right now. Where you at?
That's the second time today I've heard the phrase "the worm has turned." I did not expect that.
Yeah, that worm turns a lot.
Yeah,
with the Steelers right
it's
now.
Apparently Shakespeare. I didn't know that. That's where their origins come from. Anyway, back to this game. Obviously, I think Buffalo's a really good team. There's a lot of reason to pick the Bills in this one with Josh Allen, the bevy weapons. Pittsburgh's clearly hurting without, Vince Williams, the inside linebacker situation. You guys know the whole spiel. What I think it comes down to me is that, one of the reasons why at least Pittsburgh lost to Washington because of that Washington defense was really good, and that front four was really strong at the point of attack, especially in the run game. I don't expect Pittsburgh to run all over the Bills, obviously, even though the Bills have not played well with the run defense this year. But that defense overall is not nearly as talented across the board, personnel-wise, as Washington. So I think Pittsburgh gets back to the winning ways.
Wait! What are you about to do here?
I'm picking the Steelers, 26-23. Obviously, I think Buffalo is capable of winning this game, but I think Pittsburgh, because the Bills' defense is not as good as Washington's or Baltimore's, that's the deciding factor in this one.
Alex, Buffalo's defense hasn't adjusted. If there's anything that favors what you just broke down here, their adjusted net yards per passing attempt number is 6.4. All right, so that's kind of middle of the league, and that's technically that is too high to win a Super Bowl. All right?
6 is your cutoff.
Yeah, like 6 point. If you want to stretch it, give it down to like 6.2, 6.1. If you want to give them the benefit of the doubt. But that number's too high for this time of year for them to and look they've Their 2 losses have come against who? Or their 3 losses have come against the Chiefs, the Titans, and the Cardinals, right?
Yes, they lost 32-30 to the Cardinals.
All right. Now you can forgive them for the loss to the Chiefs, right?
Yeah, and they played. They made, like I told Matt, they didn't play well against Mahomes, but they made them look mortal, which is a win in my book.
So they're winning these other games in spite of their pass defense, pretty much.
And their run defense. I mean, their run defense has not been good this year.
So if there's anything that plays into what you just predicting to win, you're basically saying that the Steelers are going to be able to do something offensively against this defense, and then that the Steelers defense will play just good enough to do it, right?
Essentially, sure.
All right, my biggest fear is obviously the offensive side of football for the Steelers, and worrying about that one extra possession, that difference in the 2 and 4 red zone trips for Buffalo versus the 1 and 4 there. That's where I'm hung up on this one. I understand. I thought for sure you're going to go the way with Buffalo. Somebody's got to do it.
Well, it's not me, so that's saying it's you.
And I don't have a mouse in my pocket, so I'm going to pick against them here. But I think it's a reasonably close game. I do think the Bills cover this one, but I think that one extra red zone trip is the difference, and I'm worried about the Steelers maybe not cashing in like they should in the red zone here as well. I think the Steelers will still be able to move the football up and down the field. I just worry what they're going to do inside the red zone there. I have this a real traditional kind of score here, 24-21. Buffalo. I have Buffalo covering this one. Who knows? Maybe a late field goal in this one by Buffalo as well there. I hope you're right. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah. No, I like the more traditional scores after you've gone all borderline scoregami on me this season with the wild ones. So we both have 3-point games. You got Buffalo by 3. I got Pittsburgh by 3. Obviously, we're expecting a close game overall. You get in a close game, late fourth quarter. Who knows what could happen? Anything could happen.
Who's the biggest X factor in this one?
It's a good question. I don't want to spoil my article for tomorrow, personally, because I haven't written it, and I don't know who the X factor is in this one. But I think just how the Steelers communicate defensively and how they handle the pressure packages from Buffalo will be interesting to see.
Most definitely. They have to get a turnover or 2 in this game, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to win these kind of games against good teams without a turnover. Washington, didn't get one last week, so I don't know if they have to, but obviously you really, really want to.
Right. All right.
All right, Dave. That's our predictions. We'll see who's right in this one. It's not too often we've gone in different directions. It's been a while. So let's get to some reader emails and close out today's show.
All right. Let me get my email pulled up here real quick. I think we got a few. Let's see here. All right. Richard Hudspeth back in here saying, let's see here. I think he just bumped up his email. I've given serious thoughts to the Steelers running game and how to fix it. Please let me know if I'm crazy and why. Move Matt back to right tackle. Did we read this the other? No, he's just bumping up his email. Move Matt Fowler back to right tackle and Dotson to guard using Chooks as a swing when applicable. I believe this injects more attitude into the front as well as Matt being better tackle than guard. Number 2, use more play action now. We talked about that, Richard. Put your wants in one hand and you know what in the other. See which one fills up the quickest. We'll see. Use more play action now. The fact that you have a legit deep threat in Chase and a mobile tight end. What do you think about Chase Claypool's real quick snap reduction?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you saw Washington play more. I was surprised at the amount of Claypool snaps being reduced. I thought it'd be more kind of spread out, but people want to Washington on the field. You get it. Someone's going to have to lose snaps because of it.
In fact, you have a legit threat in Chase and a mobile tight end. Shouldn't make this viable even with using an extra lineman taking away a pass catcher. So he's saying use more play action to get deep down the field. Number 3, I think sometimes we have said Benny needs carries to warm up. That same thing was noted of Connor. too often I believe we go away from him too quickly, maybe because of injury concerns, but JC should be carrying the ball more than 15 times if you want him to be more effective at it. I'm not some guru, but I feel this would at least mitigate some of the popcorn. Do you agree? Here's the thing. You're going to get James more carries later in the game if you're leading the football game and you have success early in the game. All right? I would like to see them come out as much as it might be slamming your head up against a brick wall. I would like to see them try to run their way out of their run game problems, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think anything Richard said there was unreasonable. Obviously, the carry number, it can be so specific that it doesn't always, there's correlation and causation and all that. But yeah, I don't disagree with any of this. Well, to the first point about this might have been asked on Wednesday's show. I remember answering the question at least about moving Filer around and Dotson. I gave my thoughts on Wednesday that, well, I understand that I'm not really in favor of it for a variety of reasons. But yeah, to the point about play action and just trying to establish around a little bit better. I mean, I can obviously get on board with those concepts.
Yeah, look, we'll have to see what happens with the run game this week. I mean, it's hard to be too optimistic, right?
Sure. I mean, the bar is set very low. I mean, which makes it easy to clear, but they haven't done that in a while.
Right. All right. Let's look. What else do we have here in the email machine? Jonathan Mason. Wolf mentioned Thursday morning that he would like to see Filer move to right tackle and Dotson left guard. I think I put that up on Twitter machine before that interview even hit, to be honest with you. Kind of laughing along because I think didn't you and I talk about it the other day as well, too? Look, we don't expect it to happen, but are
you in favor of the idea though? Because I was asking my mailbag about this too, and I'm the answer is no. I understand it, but I'm
not this game, no. But
okay.
You got to do something if you continue to have problems.
Fair point. And you think that's a viable
solution? I think, look, Dotson's going to be a left guard next year. He's going to be one of your guards. All right. I'm not saying you do it this week, no. But I think if you continually have problems and you're only running for 35% success rate and 40 yards a game and all like that, you're going to have to do something. All right.
Yeah.
Could either of you actually see them making this change, or do you think it would help? Well, I think we just covered that. Thanks for all the good work, even though it's just a blog.
I was wondering if that was going to come up today.
Do you want to address that?
I don't know. Do you want me to address it? We can address it. Not that I'm going
to do it diplomatically, as only because if I do it, I won't do it.
Yeah, that's why you asked me to.
Yeah,
to address it.
Right. You don't want me to address it.
I mean, again, I'm not trying to make this a whole thing,
It just goes to show what we battle, though, right?
Yeah, and I want to thank Joe Starkey for referencing us. I think he's supported the site and said nice things about it, so I appreciate that. But, Ed Bouchette is not a fan of the site. We are not exchanging Christmas cards, and there was a stat that was relayed that Brad came up with. Did a great job. Brad's done such valuable work and given us stats and info this year, and Bouchette didn't really seem to buy the stat too much because we are just a blog, and we are a blog, but that doesn't make the stat incorrect. It's because of the medium of it, and that was research. That wasn't something we made up or came up with. That was Brad being able to use the NFL data and being able to comb through it and find the way to get the data, to extract the data that we were talking about with Chase Claypool in the pass interference call. So, yeah, just kind of a weird shot at us for having a stat that was accurate. I don't even understand what the issue was.
Yeah, it's a weird hill for him to die on, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And listen,
we haven't messed with any of those guys. Period. It was weird. Look, we try to do what others don't do, and we try to add talented people that allows us to do that. And data science is one of those things, and we're pleased as punch to have Brad on board now, doing a lot of that at a push of a button's notice on some of this stuff too. The graphics are outstanding and all. I didn't understand. If anybody wants to know what the reference was in that just email just there, it's just because I guess we're still referred to as just a blog. Well, guess what? We're a blog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and blog, website, what does it matter? And listen, I know Bichette's been doing this for a long time. I want to respect all those guys that have been just kind of the most known names of the Pittsburgh media, whether you're talking Stan Savran or Pomp or Bouchette, but I don't know. I don't have a particular beef, so it was just kind of weird it was just a weird reaction.
Yeah, we made a donation in Ed's name.
Yeah, thank you for that. And yeah, that was legitimately kind of you to do.
Right. To Pittsburgh, what's the name of it? Pittsburgh Food Bank.
Yeah.
And they can, I've donated to that a couple of times this year, but I thought I made $100 donation in Ed Bouchette's name to the Pittsburgh Food Bank. You can get there by going to pittsburghfoodbank.org. Obviously this time of year right now, Christmas time, I'm sure they could use the support as well too. So, I wanted something good to come out of all that, Alex.
Yeah. And that is a very charitable thing to do. So anyway, I'm not trying to harp on it too much. I'm moving on. But yeah, that's the comment. That's the reference.
All right, inside linebacker stuff. Jeremy Miller writes in, "Hi, Dave and Alex. So I thought I saw Ola playing the stand up over the A gap and get a running blitz position. Did either of you notice this? If so, what would mean? If so, that would mean all three of Highsmith, Watt, and Ola have done that quasi-inside linebacker in an overlook. In these dire times, do any of these guys project to get a couple snaps in a more traditional inside linebacker role?"
To answer the question, yes, Jeremy, they did it. Ola did it. I think in the second half of that one, I think the running back bounced it and picked up whatever he needed to get. No, I wouldn't expect those guys to play inside because they have to deal with their own issues at outside and the issues, the loss of Bud Dupree, so they have to dedicate their snaps there. I think you still roll with Williamson and Marcus Allen and other guys filling that role as opposed to outside linebackers. I mean, there was more injuries in game potentially, but that's an overfront based on offensive personnel and two tight end sets, so it's not something you're really doing because of any issues at inside linebacker.
Jeremy adds serendipitous timing with UG3 ? After Alex's build-up this year has been frustrating for me. I am sure more so for him. I hope the young man is ready, but I expect a huge amounts of rust if he gets a few snaps. What chance is there for him to be active, and how many defensive snaps do you think he will get if he dresses? How many more snaps will Hilton see on a percentage basis? Love the show and the site. Keep up doing what you do. I think, look, you can't rule it out with what's happened with Vince Williams, right? With UG3, but I don't know. Does it feel like a little bit early to activate? And you'd have to, if you activate him, somebody's going to have to come off the 53.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point. It's hard to say. Obviously, a young guy hasn't practiced for the last 6 weeks, whatever the number is, and first week back. But they did activate Dawson after 2 weeks, played him right away. Same with Hawkins, and it's not exactly apples to apples. But given the situation, it's dire. If they can get him back, I think they probably do it. I just don't know if he's going to be ready or not.
Right, and it's not like he's on the practice squad and you can elevate him.
Right.
He's got to be a 53-man ad, and right now, as of Pouncey, they're at 53, right? Didn't we determine that?
Yeah, with Pouncey, they're at 53, correct.
All right, so any addition, I suppose the Spillane has to go on IR. That's a possibility, to open up a space there. Even if he gets activated, he's not going to play a lot outside of special teams. Talking about UG3.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to have a lot of confidence, but I don't know. They're kind of forced to. There's no good answer to solving this issue. I mean, you're kind of forced to do something you're not comfortable with.
Bryce writes in, revenge on the Bills. While the Washington game was only one loss, it was an ugly loss indeed. Hopefully we can rebound and get some revenge. Dave, I know you like to mock the fan base for all the calls. Fire Randy Fichtner. I understand he's not going anywhere. However, you said yourself on a podcast he's a quarterback coach calling plays, not an offensive coordinator. No, I've always, maybe that was Alex, didn't what you just said. Look, here's the long and short of it. He's not going to go to the pro. He's not going to win any awards of an offensive coordinator. Just like you said, Keith Butler was an outside linebacker coach that's calling plays, not a defensive coordinator. You also said that Randy is not elite. Okay, he's not elite. So it's fitting that a coach that's not elite with the warts that Fichtner has, that Alex has pointed out, would take a lot of heat for some of his wacky schemes and situational play selection. As I've said before, when portions of your offenses are historically bad, then it has to fall more on the side of coaching. So my question is, blah, blah, blah. If he's a quarterback calling plays as you called him, then why do you see him as a quarterback coach calling plays? In what way? Because I think he's limited by a lot of things what Ben Roethlisberger has to do. And I think a lot of that relationship right now with offensive coordinator quarterback has to do with a kind of a give and take situation there. I don't know what more you want me to put on that. I mean, he's not going to go into Hall of Fame offensive coordinators there. So Bryce, I think you're the one that's stupid if you're making the play to fire Randy Fichtner because of 3 bad situational calls maybe in a game.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, obviously, just the logistics. I mean, to fire him now, if that's the question is, or even after the season. I mean, as long as Ben's here, Fichtner's going to be here, for better or for worse. That's just how it's going to be. Unless Canada were to get promoted, I guess that would be the only other option because you're not going to bring in someone new on the outside so late in Ben's career. So that's the situation.
I mean, he is what he is. He's not going to be. He's not in the upper echelon or ever going to be considered in the realm of name some names.
Sean McVay or even Brian Dable, who Steelers are facing this week. Who
are the top offensive coordinators right now? Look at what happened. What would you say happened to McDaniels and the Patriots this year offensively?
I mean, they're a mess. Obviously, they've had a lot of changes to deal with for sure. They haven't responded particularly well.
Right. What did you think about some of them play calls they had down in the red zone?
Yeah, I mean the fourth down play, a little option thing that went nowhere. We've litigated Fichtner. Neither of us are calling him great, but neither of us are calling for him to be fired right now, at least obviously.
Yeah, I think didn't we do a good job of going over the plays that needed issue taken with them?
Yeah, on Wednesday's show, we went through all the situational stuff, and I think we were very critical of.
And I think I added one more play in there, did I not?
Yeah, no, I forget exactly the whole conversation, but yeah, we went through it pretty heavily. I thought that we were pretty critical of those calls.
So Bryce, I really think I think the crux of your email here is idiotic, for lack of a better word. Number 2, how much of the offensive line run game has to fall at the sweet feet of Sean Surratt? Do you see them making a change after the season? Look, I think this is a big year for Sean Surratt. I don't know when his contract's up, but this offensive line, especially when it comes to physicality and the run blocking end of it, hasn't been great. And how much, areas where he needs to develop as a run game coordinator are there for sure, right? That's one thing that Munchak did that they probably miss is the run game coordinator aspect of it. People forget that there's a lot of things Munchak did other than coaching up technique on offensive line.
Yeah, I mean he was the run game coordinator, and I think that's basically still how the dynamic works now, where Fichtner is kind of more the pass game guy and Surratt's the run game guy. I mean, obviously, again, when things are this bad and they are really bad for the Steelers run game, coaching is to blame. I mean, you can't just not blame coaches for how bad the output is. I would say, though, I feel like I had bigger issue with Surratt last year because I thought the run scheme was worse conceptually, and the pass pro, they were more overwhelmed. This year, I think it's been more of an execution problem, and of course, the pass pro has been excellent. So as much as we can criticize the O-line for the lack of run game, you have to give him a ton of credit for the pass pro. I think the stat from the Steelers PR department was they need 2 more pass attempts to have the second longest sackless streak since the merger, only behind Dan Marino, who went like 17 games or something without being sacked. So, and I get that there's weapons and Ben gets the ball out of his hand quickly, but like you have to give the O-line a ton of credit for that, and all the injuries and guys like Chuk's playing better and stuff like that. So does Surratt deserve some of the blame for the run game? Absolutely, but I'm not as angry with him, honestly, as I was last season.
Funny thing about talking about offense coordinator, now there's people on throughout the internet and easy to find on the social media saying, boy, we was too hard on Todd Haley. All the people calling for his head and all like that. Look, the reason that ended, I think, mainly was because of the relationship, and I called it. You could see the deterioration of that happening. Todd Haley's a hard person to play for, period.
Ask Matt Castle. You hear that Matt Castle story?
Right, absolutely. And I don't doubt that him and Roethlisberger rubbed each other well. And probably a lot of reason why pseudo offensive coordinator, if you will, quarterback coach / coordinator, why Randy Fichtner is in that job is because of Ben Roethlisberger. All right. But I still think Randy's very, very capable person. Once again, you'd like to see him do some things in different in situational football, and we outlined quite a few of those the last couple of weeks here. But if you watch as much football as we watch, then you go back and you say, look at those 3 or 4 calls in that game against the Patriots, or it's easy to pick out 3 or 4 games in every game and say fire the offensive coordinator. Personally, unless someone can really, really back it up good, which a lot of times they can't, I think it shows ignorance of listeners and emailers when all they or people on Twitter when all they want to do is just fire the offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's common in Pittsburgh. You remember that with Wisenhunt, the Arians, the Todd Haley call. They called for Todd Haley to be fired the second he got here, almost basically. And again, obviously he was, like you said, quite a tough coach to play for.
The best thing to do. The best thing a fan can do is educate themselves on the who, what, why, when, and where, and how. To use the canned response, predictable,
run, pass, which is not accurate for Fichtner.
Unimaginative is so. We laugh. Honestly, we laugh at you when you make those kind of responses. Get into more the X's and O's aspect of it. Okay. Look, we Alex and I ripped into the not so much. Look, the play calls in and of themselves with Hawkins and the pass to McFarland. Were they bad plays? Were they bad play designs? Hawkins more so than McFarland one.
Yeah. The 4th and goal against Baltimore was a bad play design with the personnel they were using. But to your point, the McFarland play on 4th and 1 against Washington, it's not a bad play in a vacuum. The context of when it was called is what I had issue with. Right.
And as far as the old how Juju's being used and Ben not throwing the football down the field, I mean, how much of that has been? How much is that play calling? How much is that is been?
It's hard to say. I think a lot of it's just what defenses are doing. I think part of it is the route, just the scheme, Steelers scheme, but also the defensive scheme. That's a big issue that's hard to sum up in a sentence of like, okay, we're going to blame this guy for this problem.
Right. Now look, there will come a day when Randy Fichtner is not the offensive coordinator of the Steelers.
Let me ask you this real quick. Do you think Fichtner is ever OC for this team post Ben? Is there ever a season where
No, I don't. Okay. Period.
So you think as soon as Ben goes, Fichtner's gone too?
What's that?
You think as soon as Ben retires, Fichtner is no longer going to be the OC?
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
And I don't think that's a stretch to.
No, I don't think it is.
To say that.
Although I don't know, the Steelers, Tomlin definitely keeps those coaches around, so I wouldn't be shocked to see another year with Fichtner under the new quarterback.
I mean, but we're still look. Here's the thing: how much longer is Ben going to play? We don't know. We don't know that. Fichtner's, I would think, still going to be in the position that he's in at least through 2021.
Yeah, well, we expect Ben to play next year too.
Right.
So
right.
The question is post Ben, what happens?
Now post Ben, what happens? Depends. Have they won any Super? Look, you're not going to fire a guy if you go deep into the playoffs and you win a Super Bowl, like it or not.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right. I mean, how many times do you see coordinators that go deep into the playoffs get fired? If they don't, look, they're not going to be lining up at Randy Fichtner's door to be a head coach.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't have to worry about that. Same with Keith Butler.
Mm-hmm.
And I really view more of what's going on in Pittsburgh anyway, and have for a while, is more of a kind of a Borg situation.
A Borg situation?
Right, where it's a conglomerate. A lot of people are feeding info. I mean, look, Terrell Austin. How much say do you think he has maybe in weekly meetings?
Probably he's got a big voice in that room, I'm sure.
Right, I would agree. And I think at this point Matt Canada's got quite a big voice as well too. Does that mean that Matt Canada needs to be our offensive coordinator?
Not as long as Ben is the quarterback. Well, probably not as long as Ben is the quarterback.
People are bitching about things that they're going to run into the same problems if you have someone else in there.
Yeah, if Canada became OC, inevitably at some point someone will say that Canada is too predictable or isn't doing a good job and needs to be fired. It's a circle of life. It
looks grade schoolish when all people say is, "Oh, fire the offensive coordinator, everything will be better." When you look at 2 explosive plays that Washington made over Cam Sutton, are you more inclined to take off your hat and hand it to Alex Smith for the throws, or are you putting the onus more on Cam's coverage in those 2 situations? The one down the right side is a great throw.
Mm-hmm. It was.
Anything else?
What was the other? There was a screen to Cam Sims. Was there another one with Cam Sutton? Because that wasn't...
I'm trying to remember the other one.
Because the screen was Hilton was the first guy there, and he kind of got pushed and couldn't make the tackle. I don't kill Hilton too much for not making that play. But.
Jeff Berg writes, do you perhaps see a lot of communication errors due to all the shakeup at linebacker? I think it's possible. Also, with our defense being a huge component to us winning all these close games, are you optimistic we could win more than 2 out of the last 4? We're playing teams with 9-3, 2-9, 8-4, 9-3 records as of right now, of course. I think it's unfathomable. He says, I think it's not unfathomable we could go 1-3 in the last 4. Could result in second place in the division. Hypothetical time, which may be a topic y'all would rather not touch right now, which I understand fully. Look, I mean, it's game by game right now, but you could theoretically see them losing this game against Buffalo. I think if you're honest and objective about breaking this thing down, they shouldn't lose to Cincinnati.
That gives you the Colts and
Cleveland
Browns. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So it's possible. I mean, obviously, you think they beat the Bengals, and they should be able to at least win one of these other 3 games. If not, there's some bigger problems. So it's unlikely, but is it possible? Yeah, they got a couple tough teams coming up.
What's your level of concern if this team goes 2-4 or worse? Going into
it's
the playoffs.
Hard. Yeah, it's hard to say. It just depends on why those losses happened. But it would obviously there'd be. You think things are bad at 11-1. Imagine this team has got more games. At the end of the world.
Right.
All right. I think we have a pretty long show. I think we're attacking today. So let's wrap things up and come back on Monday to talk about what happened.
All right. You can follow me on Twitter. Send your hate mail and your hate emails and your fire the offensive coordinator and all that at Steelers Depot. Alex is on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and you want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button up right navigational bar. Also, if you want an ad-free version of the site, please go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit the ad-free button up right navigational bar. For $25 for 1 calendar year, you can have an ad-free version of the site. Alex and I will be back to mop up the halls here on Monday. Go over everything that happened Buffalo versus the Steelers. And in the meantime, we hope you visit SteelersDepot.com. Got a lot of content hitting these next several games ahead of that game starting. Also, we will have live blogs going, live in-game blogs going by Ross McCorkle Sunday night as well, too. Hope you hit the site for that. In the meantime, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.